Committee meeting for 12th of October. Welcome to councillors, staff, members of the gallery and those watching on live stream. I'd like to now open the meeting with the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. Okay. We have a request for leave of absence from Councillor Shoemaker. Do we have a mover? Councillor Jones seconded. Councillor Potter. Those in favour, carried unanimously. Thank you all. Councillor Duff, could you provide the recognition of our traditional owners? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to acknowledge country and the land where we meet this morning, the Waka land, and acknowledge the elders, both past, present and emerging. Thank you.
Okay. Councillors, any conflicts of interest to disclose to the meeting? Okay, if not, feel free to put your hand up throughout the meeting, should you realise so. 5.1, minutes of the previous meeting. It can be found at page 5 on the agenda. Recommendation is that the minutes of the Liveability Standing Committee meeting held on the 14th of September 2022 be received. Do we have a mover? Councillor Erkin, second Councillor Potter, thank you. Okay, any speakers? To the vote, those in favour? Carried unanimously, thank you all. Rightio, 6.1, notice of motion, Kingaroy RSL and Pound Street. That is at 41. Right. Now, I've provided, put forward a notice of motion as presented there. It can be seen on screen or councillors have it there. What we might do, being a committee meeting, we do have a little bit of flexibility to have a discussion around this, councillors, before we really lock in any motion. So I think in light of the significance of this one, I'd like to do so. So I'd like to open the floor now for a discussion. That gives councillors plenty of opportunity to ask questions, to discuss it, and then we can look to get the motion or a motion out for debate and voting. So first of all, probably a little bit of background. Councillors we had a representation made by the Kingaroy Memorandum sub-branch seeking land to construct up to 12 units for the purpose of accommodation for widowers and also veterans and widowers. And so we looked at Pound Street as one option, and we met down there. General Manager O'May and some of the councillors met down there and had a look. So further to that, I've put forward this motion to the committee. Basically, it's seeking to have a report brought back to the next committee meeting, outlining the needs of the sub-branch and what would the process be for council if we chose to subdivide and approve a material change of use on the land at Pound Street. The recommendation was, and there is a map provided to councillors that seek to consider 4,000 square metres, or that could be changed. Basically, a land area, I think, of 100 metres by 40 metres, providing for up to 12 units as a gift to the RSL sub-branch. That 6,000 metre section B and remaining land area, the areas of land there may have to change depending on the needs. If this was something council wanted to consider for residential development and also for a community centre. And then Part D, that land area in blue, is really just a floodway with a electricity easement. So it has no other value other than being used for a car park, as we understand it from what our officers have advised us. So, look, that's a little bit of the background. So I think we might just have a discussion around that, and then we can look to see what format of motion we'd like to put forward. So, councillors, have you got questions? Feel free to discuss this, have questions. Councillor Duff.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm supportive of the motion. I was there the day we met with the RSL sub-branch members, and I think that what's positive about this is that we would get action straight away. They've got funding money in the bank to actually do some of these units. I think that it ticks the box as far as using that car park area for the SB care. And obviously the community centre is something that everybody wants, and then the rest of it would be residential, which is absolutely something that I think is there's a huge shortage across our region and certainly in Kingaroy. So for me, this ticks all of the boxes, and because I think the community is crying out for something to happen sooner rather than later in Pound Street, and there's a guarantee that the RSL sub-branch would step up and get that happening straight away. So really keen to support it as is, and that the report be brought back to the November Standing Committee to get us more time to get, all of those actions in place. So really keen to support this. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Erkins.
Mr Mayor, unfortunately I wasn't actually at that meeting, but I'm just reading the letter from the RSL, and just on the last paragraph here it says, in discussions regarding 1 Pound Street, Council has expressed interest in other community groups, for example, mental health, disabled persons, joining with RSL in a community welfare centre. No discussions were held into what form a proposed joint venture would take and who would fund a venture of this nature. I'm just raising the fact that if council were going to be gifting land, there's a fair financial contribution from council there anyway. So I just, would like to just draw attention to that fact.
Other councillors? Councillor Potter.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, this is when this report came through, it was the first time because, like Councillor Erkins, I was unable to attend that meeting because we seem to be having so many meetings all at the same time lately. But look, this is we have not discussed Pound Street as a council enough. We've had individual meetings from individual people, but as a council, sitting down here in this room, we have not discussed our aspirations or what we feel would be a great fit for Pound Street. There are other things that I've sent through with regards to other things that we could be doing at Pound Street, and there is other blocks of land that council has been looking at for the RSL. So this is something I would like to actually lay on the table so we can discuss this in depth. We can sit down in this room and have that discussion. If you want it in an open meeting to discuss it now, that's fine. But we've got to remember that there are things that we have in confidence we're not allowed to discuss. So, I just feel that I don't have enough information about every single thing we would like to do because, with regards to the sporting recreation area that I sent an email through with, none of us just have sat down to discuss what all of our thoughts and ideas are, and that's what we need to do first.
I just want to clarify for councillors, this motion is certainly not to commit council to doing this. It was simply to bring a report back to the next committee meeting to look at the overview of the land needs of the RSL. So we may need to go back to the RSL staff and talk to them about confirming what are their land needs, point one. And point two, what would then be a process for council to subdivide? Because I believe we'd have to go through a process of community consultation. We're looking at a material change of use, so that would be a DA application. Are there any issues around state government requirements? So it was really to just put in place a process to consider this as one option at this stage. I certainly didn't intend to try and commit council to doing it. And then those other options could be considered once we had this full picture as to how it would work, if we did want to go down that path. So that's, just to be clear, that's the intention. I'm happy to change the wording to make that intention clearer if you wanted. But having said that, we'll stay with you, Councillor Potter. Yeah, so, yeah, please continue.
If that's your intention, then that's great. But I just don't know. November's not that far away, and I'm just wondering, with everything else we've put on, whether another report is viable for the November meeting. I'd probably get your direction through the acting CEO for that one, because that's his department. So as much as I'd love to see it and get this sorted, are we trying to put too much on ourselves and the staff at this particular point of time?
Yeah, thanks, Ped. So in terms of how that motion's written there, Peter, would that be, would November be achievable, I suppose, is the question from Councillor Potter.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, November will be a struggle. Just we have got to turn around, and there is a little bit in considering those options. Like we do need to go through and bring that process back to council. I suppose there's going to be a bit of backwards and forwards around those land areas. But yeah, I suppose we can bring something back. November will be a push, but we could do an overall, like a overarching sort of thing. We wouldn't actually take steps to put that in place. But we could bring a brief report back on that. December would give us a little bit more time to actually nut it out. We are sort of with staff-wise, we are a bit short at the moment. We lose Mike at the end of the month, so we're going to be down again another. So November will be a push.
I'm happy to change it to December. Yeah, I'm happy to change it to December if it gives a bit more time. And it was really just for the staff to come back and say, look, if you choose to do this, council, then this is to confirm what the RSL are looking for, and this would be the process you'd have to go through from a planning point of view. So it's really so that we can understand what would be the planning process to make that happen. Yeah, it was more about understanding the process as such. Yeah.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I suppose as a bit of a follow-on for that one, would that report be able to include some of that other land we had discussed for the RSL as well, that I know that the team was sort of looking at through that,
Look, I'm happy to put an item 3 in, which was consideration of other options for land for Kingaroy for the sub-branch. So, yeah, we're happy to insert that so that we keep an open mind on this, yeah. And I'll come to Councillor Henson shortly. I'll come to you shortly, Councillor Henson, but I just wanted to say, everybody, just on this, look, this is really just to get the process started. I think we have a community who are probably keen to see us do something with Pound Street. And I know we've been kicking the can down the road for a little while with this one. I know since I got into council, we've been tossing around a few ideas. We had the land assessment report done, so we've done that. I guess what I'm keen to see is we actually now start a process of seriously considering doing something with it, one way or the other. I'd like to think that, within the next, within the coming months, however long that takes, we actually commit to doing something with it, one way or the other, because it seems to be that it's been sitting there for a long time. And I'd just like to get a process started so we can do something at least, make a decision one way or the other. Anyway, Councillor Henson, we'll keep going around the room. Councillor Henson.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not sure, can you hear me okay?
Yes, you're good.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, look, was at that meeting with Councillor Duff and the Mayor with the RSL guys. Councillor Shoemaker brought it to the attention just in other land use. There was some available up the end, or possibly available up the end of Alfred Street. And I know the RSL gentleman would be appreciative of anything. I'm not sure our ratepayers would be overly excited if we were to gift probably one of the most valuable pieces of land in Kingaroy, but appreciate the RSL's needs as well. But look, there's certainly some work, and especially I guess what's developed in the last month, that there's other things to look at with that particular block of land. So happy, Mr. Mayor, if you put a third point in there. But I guess the other thing, we're loading our staff up with all these reports to come back, and again leading into the Christmas New Year period, even December, with what's on ours and their tables. Would it be reasonable to suggest next year be that January perhaps? And I know that's dragging it out, but I mean, October will be gone, and November, as acting CEO May has stated, November's rushing it, and then we've got short time in December. What would be the thoughts of that being early next year, Mr. Mayor?
Probably not to go beyond December, with all due respect, councillors. I know the RSL have got the money in the bank. They want to start signing. They want to get their designers doing the planning. They want to get the contractors locked in. I think their intention was to start work in January, February if they could. Now, that may have to be pushed back, but I would be concerned that if we do that, we're just going to delay the process further. I'm also conscious of the fact that we've got a housing crisis in our in our region. And this could potentially help alleviate that. So I'm probably keen to see this act fairly quickly if we can. And look, I'm really not asking the staff to do a lot. I mean, I'm just asking the staff to go away and come back, have another discussion with the RSL, confirm the area of land they're looking at, number one. I don't think that'll take a lot of time. That's a half an hour meeting. Number two, then just give us a report on what is the planning process? What's the process to give effect to these changes? I would have thought we already know that process, wouldn't we? I mean, we wouldn't have to go and do a lot of research, surely, to work out what's the planning process to subdivide that piece of land. So I guess I'm not asking for a lot. I wouldn't thought it's more than a couple of hours' work for our staff to produce that report, Peter, unless I'm mistaken.
Oh, yeah, that's as I was saying. Yeah, bringing back the process and confirming with the RSL that isn't necessarily a large amount. It's really just documenting down that process. So yeah, we could. I don't think we'd need to push it out to next year. That could certainly be done. Probably in the. We could push it to get into November. There just are a few things we are looking at just with the housing summit coming up. We're trying to. We're working on a bit of stuff to get to that, which is sort of probably going to take the next week or two, it was just that probably a little leeway to push it out to December, but it's not a substantial amount of reporting. It's really just on the process, not the merits here, there, or it's just really the process. Okay.
Anyone else wanted to add to think at this stage? No, Councillor Jones.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Excuse me. I guess with this proposal, the motion that you put forward, we're aware Councillor Potter has highlighted some points through an email that she suggested, which I think had a lot of merit and certainly need to be looked into, and that we also are aware of another proposal that's in confidential at the moment. So, there is a lot to go into this, and whether you start, and I appreciate the discussion. The RSL has got money in the bank. They want us to do something. We've got a housing shortage, all that sort of stuff. But taking on what Councillor Potter said, with those options in front of us, and I have no issues with what you're proposing to go forward and bring that report and information back. I don't have any issues with that. That's something that we need to do, but we do need to have a discussion around exactly what we do and how we move forward, because we have options. And Councillor Potter's, as I said, referring to her email, she put some very, very good points forward, and there is that other proposal. So fully support bringing back the information that you have, the timeframes, if the staff's happy with what you're suggesting before Christmas or whatever, happy with that. But I think we do need to have a conversation really seriously and soon, best as we can, to have a real hard discussion about what this council wants to see there.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Jones. I think that's a good point, and I'd like us to see us make a decision at some point in the next few months and communicate that to the community. I think the community are out there scratching their heads wondering what we're doing with that block of land. And we've had our land use assessment report done. The staff have done all their job. They've given us the information, but it seems to me we're sitting on our hands and not doing anything about it. So I would like to see us start to consider the options and make a decision and get on with it, whatever that may be, So, yeah, Councillor Erkins.
Sorry. Through you, Mr Mayor, just a little further on the housing shortage. I just actually ran a check on what's available in Kingaroy. There's actually 16 properties vacant in Kingaroy at the moment for rent. So, I think I mentioned it once before. Properties are starting to come back onto the market. So
it's interesting.
They are quite expensive, I might add to that.
Yeah, I'm not sure if our veterans or widowers could afford them, but anyway, that's...
Sorry, on that, that's another thing that we really have to be careful. When I'm saying about the price, we have to be careful that we're not affecting the rental market by, making land available to charities, and then that affects the rental income for people who have invested in our area as well. So just something that we do need to be aware of. I
think the landlords are having a pretty good run right now, councillor, in terms of their ROI on their investments. But certainly it's a point we have to consider always in council. Yeah, you're right. Anyone else want to discuss it any further? Are you happy if we just get the motion up? So, Kimberly, if we can just maybe just change that. Leave number 1 as is. Number 2, part A, can we just change that to, rather than say 4,000 square metres, section A, probably just a suitable land area. Just change to that, because that needs to be obviously worked through with the RSL to make sure that we're clear as to which piece of land, General Manager, acting CEO.
Yeah, just through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, so there has been discussion sort of with the RSL around the 4,000 square metre block, but yeah, the map that we've done up just as an indication is only 30 metres wide, so it doesn't actually suit the purposes. So that's where the Mayor's talking about. We may need to adjust that that size for the design that they'd be looking at. So that would be just clarification. So.
Thanks, General Manager. We might just take out item B if we could, Kimberly. And then with item C, remaining land area, and take out section C, take the word section C out, remaining land area for potential medium density residential. Yeah, medium density residential. And we could probably just take at the northern end out, and then insert the word and community recreation. So obviously there'd be a divide between those two, but just leave that a bit flexible as to what land areas would be appropriate. And then, yeah, land area in the floodway, that could just take D out. I'll just note too that we have had approaches from organisations such as SB Care who are looking for more parking, and they've identified that as one area that they think would be suitable because they're expanding and don't have enough parking, and they're probably keen to get the parking off the street. And then item 3, consideration of other options for land use for the Kingaroy RSL sub-branch. Yep. Is everyone reasonably comfortable? Anything we wanted to add to that motion or change? No? Comfortable? It's only a report. Yeah, okay. Well, I'll move that. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Potter, thank you. Further speakers? No? Everyone's right to go to the vote. Those in favour? Yes, got everyone? Carried unanimously. Thank you all. Okay. We'll now move on to item 6.2. I believe RSEQ Life Flight Gala. We'll go to you, Councillor Potter. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor. We'll take that as moved. Councillor Erkins has seconded. Speakers? Councillor Potter, anything further to add? No?
No, I think we all know what Life Flight do in the area. You know, I've got the numbers there. They've sent them through to me for this report. So,
Yes.
and just recently, one of our own has actually used it recently. So, and it's a wonderful, for me, it's probably, something that I believe that everyone should be supporting in our area.
Those in favour? Yes, carried unanimously. Thank you all. 6.3, notice of motion for the finalisation of plans for QE2 Park in Mergen. That's at 48. Councillor Duff.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just wanted to get this on the books because the community are getting very frustrated that it would be over 12 months since we started design on the QE2 Park, and I know that the staff have been under the pump and there's been a change of the whole structure of the organisation, and Manager Leanne has now taken over the Parks and Gardens section. But I just wanted to put this on the books to find a way to progress it because, like I said, the Mergen community are getting very frustrated as to what's happening with that, and so it's just a straightforward motion that council act promptly to finalise the design plans for QE2 Park Mergen and seek to engage contractors to commence work as a priority capital project for completion prior to the 30th of June 2023. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Okay, thank you, councillor. Do we have a seconder? Second for that? Councillor Potter, thank you. Speakers, Councillor Duff, anything further to add?
No, Mr Mayor.
Okay, further speakers? Any questions? Staff? No? Everyone's... Councillor Erkins?
Sorry, did I just see in some emails that they are actually looking for underground, where the underground
Yes.
pipe work and...
Yeah, we might go to Manager Peterson for an update on where that's at. Thank you, Manager.
Thank you, councillors and Mr Mayor. Through you, Mr Mayor, we are progressing with this project. I understand the frustrations from the community. I share the same frustrations. We are working with the contractor to finalise the plans, which were to go back to the community for final approval or final input, and then back to council for endorsement. So we did write to the consultant just recommending that we need those final plans submitted as soon as possible so we can carry out our final community consultation. Now, I have received an email from them suggesting that those plans will be here this week. Therefore, knowing that that was going to happen, we've progressed with the works this week up there where we're doing the underground services identification. So you want to do that quite closely to the actual delivery of the project, so you've got the most up-to-date information on site. So those underground services will take up to 4 days to identify all of that, map it all out, photograph it and have those plans back to us. Also, we are working on, we've done up an estimate based on the first draft of the concept plan that council endorsed several months ago. So we have an estimate of how much stage 1 would cost council. So we've got that in a spreadsheet ready to go. So we'll need to bring that back to council because the estimate at this stage is over $350,000 and you have a budget of $150,000. So we would like some prioritisation from council on what actual works you would like to see progress, understanding that, you know, further works will happen at a later date. And then what we have done is started to engage and talk to the actual contractors. So talking to the concreters and Landmark on who we're actually going to access some of the equipment from, and looking at the waiting periods for some of those items in lead up into Christmas. We will not be able to get the shelters and the benches for up to 8 weeks after we order. So that's a concern for us leading into Christmas because we probably won't have them here in time to install them before Christmas. And also the concreters, local concreters advised us that, one in particular, that they cannot progress with any works until February for concreting. So we're talking to another concreting firm to see their availability and get them locked in for early in the year. So from our side, we feel that we have progressed quite well with this project, but I certainly support Councillor Duffy and would love to see those designs back from the consultant to take that back to the community and then bring that back to council for final endorsement. So, yep, support it. I'm happy to keep progressing as we are and get those plans back as soon as possible.
Thank you, Manager. Councillor Erkins.
Can I just ask why they needed to actually scan that land? Because I know for us when we're advising someone to do something that they call dial before you dig, and they normally have records of stuff, so just seems a big...
Certainly. This site is fairly complex. Dial to dig will certainly pick up the ergon energy facilities, but we also have a lot of underground power that may be running to lights, underground lights, other poles that don't necessarily are not necessarily registered with ergon energy. So we've engaged, council has engaged contractors in the past to put additional electricity in. The other thing that the scanners are doing, they'll pick up all of the other services. So you've got sewage, you've got Telstra, you've got stormwater, and there's a Telstra pit. So there's a number of internal pipes. Yep, you've got a facility there. You've got the toilet block, and we've also got the Vic as well. We've also picked up above ground. You've got lines for the speakers going through the site as well. So we want to pick up all of that so we don't dig any of that up. And also going forward, it's very important to have this information because we need to ensure when the markets are going in place and they're hammering in their pegs into the ground that they understand where our services are in future. So I think this information will be vital for us in the community.
Feel like you guys normally do that. Wouldn't council but have? I mean, it seems strange that Ergon wouldn't have. What's the name of where the power is, and also that council, if council have had work done. I mean, I'm not saying it's not, but to me it seems very strange that records were never kept of that.
Sure, we love all the records. But yeah, certainly Ergon Energy won't keep the records of all that internal power, and they certainly don't have records of other services like Telstra or our pipe work for all of our infrastructure. So that's a responsibility of the landowner, and we're the landowner there. So we need to keep those records, and you're probably looking at pipe work and sewage lines that are quite of age. So we might even pick up stuff that is obsolete and that's terminated, so we need to identify that as well. So yeah, it's just a process we need to go through for such an important site.
Thank you, Manager. Anyone else? No? Okay. Councillor Duff, anything to wrap up the debate?
No, Mr Mayor.
Okay, well, we'll go to the vote. Those in favour? Yep, got everybody? Carry unanimously. Thank you all. Okay, the next one is 6.4. It relates to a notice of motion as to the zoning of 1 to 5 Banksia Drive, Kingaroy. It's at 49. And just looking at this committee, I think it would be a responsible approach to this, I think, is if we have a discussion around this first, before we actually get a motion. Councillor Duff, are you comfortable with that? Before we put your notice of motion forward, this is a fairly significant step to take. If we just have an open discussion as a committee first?
Yes, Mr Mayor.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, and I'll come to Councillor Henson shortly. I just wanted to, before I do, just set the landscape for this. So the process is that we have this notice of motion, and it may, from Councillor Duff, if this notice of motion is passed, then the next item on the agenda, 7.1, would then lapse. Okay. If, however, this notice of motion is not passed, then we'd move to 7.1 to consider. Yeah. Okay. So I just confirmed that with CEO Mark yesterday, and that was his advice. So just I want to go forward though to 7.1, just in terms of understanding the financial resource implications. So a bit of background, we've got obviously a proponent, a landowner, who's been obviously making representation to council as part of our planning scheme amendment for some time to seek to have this area of land on the northern entry to Kingaroy, on the northern side of the hospital, rezoned through the planning scheme amendment to what they're calling local centre, which would give which would then provide the opportunity to develop some sort of a retail shopping centre zone there without having to go through an impact assessable process, a development application process. I just wanted to put some background on this. If council was to adopt this recommendation, then what the staff have said that the planning scheme amendment process that's currently with the Queensland Government would need to be paused for 6 to 9 months, so that an appropriate detailed retail hierarchy need assessment study could be undertaken to consider the impacts. If the study concluded that there was a need for a suburban-based centre, a major redraft of the strategic framework and zone provisions would be needed, and this would have significant financial and resource implications. The cost estimate is For planning economic consultant to conduct a retail hierarchy review, $30,000 to $40,000. And for a major scheme amendment and studies, a complete redraft of the strategic framework and code provisions, $20,000 to $25,000. So this could cost between $50,000 and $65,000, and could delay the planning scheme amendment for up to 9 months. Okay, so I'm not saying that to speak against the motion. I'm just wanting to make sure that all councillors have read that and understand that they're the finance and resource implications of if we choose to go down this path. So certainly it's open for discussion. Councillor Henson.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor, and I'll just bring it to Chamber's attention, not that I believe it has any effect, but I have family that lives in Banksia Drive, which I have no interest in that property in any shape or form, but my comment be around Banksia Drive, and I'll give some history on that, having been involved in the process, that when that was subdivided some 30 years ago, it was a stipulation then that that area be left as a parkland or recreational area, which has been changed within that 30 years, and further up Banksia Drive was developed as time went by. The thing that I worry there is in relation to changing that zoning community consultation, because I personally, without any of that, and as I stated, I have no interest in any of that property or any effect in my decision making on that, I believe, but community consultation there, I think, would show some dissent for the likes of that rezoning in that particular area.
Thanks, Councillor Henson. Other thoughts, questions? Councillor Duff.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The reason why I put this motion to the committee was because I am, like you talk about beautification of Kingaroy, and I don't know, like I drive in from that northwestern end almost daily, and you see that block of land there with those huge, almost like mountains of lumps of dirt. It's just so unattractive, and it's been sitting there for, I don't know, for years. And I just have put this forward because as has been mentioned, we've been, this developer has said, well, you know, the zoning doesn't suit for what he wants to actually do there. So, and also the requirements to go out to impact accessible application through that whole process, the cost and the chances of getting his proposal up with the zoning that currently, it's just going to sit there that's my concern, that block will sit there for indefinitely, looking how it does without progressing anything. And also the second point about the planning scheme changing the car parking requirements, well, for a similar development that has been suggested, Toowoomba would be 1 to 28 and ours is 1 to 15, so the requirement for the square metres is 1 to 28 in Toowoomba, and so that's why he's saying that, you know, if you want, even if we change the zoning, the requirements for the car parking is also prohibitive. So just wanted to flag why I've put this to the chamber today, because I just think it's at a standstill unless we do something. It's just going to sit there looking like that for probably indefinitely.
Councillor Erkins.
I think when the owner came into council and spoke to us, I think one of the things that he said is he wanted some answer. So, you know, I think it's an opportunity for us to tell him that we're not going to rezone it, and that's his answer. He needs to move on, and in that way, maybe, you know, he'll sell it or he'll do something with it that will fix the problem of the mounds of dirt and all that. But I think, you know, in all fairness, we need to give him that answer. As Councillor Henson said, you know, he may not have a personal interest, but he does have the interest, as we all do, of residents in that area. And, you know, we're not doing any consultation with them, but we would need to if we're going to change it to something. And as I said, I think we just need to give him an answer that we are not going to be going ahead and rezoning. The cost to our ratepayers is considerable. And against the advice of our staff.
Councillor Potter?
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Dare I say yet again, I actually agree that we need to do something, and I think we need to either tell him what we want, tell him what we need, and again, if we're going to talk about the housing issue, you know, residential units or something like that, they wouldn't go, I mean, they'd probably go quite nicely there, but we do need to start, we do need to talk. He needs to know what to do or what he can do for future use of that land, and that's up to us to tell him. So, yeah, we've got to do something, and I'm personally thinking that it's probably more suitable to residential as opposed to commercial, I'm thinking. But look, we just need something.
Councillor Jones?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I won't be supporting this motion simply because if you go into 7.1, as you suggested, there's some information there and you've highlighted it all. As far as the developer goes and the big mounds of dirt, he's had substantial time to do whatever he wanted to if he was a community-minded person. So I don't want to see a town centre or a local centre taking away businesses. We're trying to fill the shops in the main street. So we've got significant work going on there. The town centre is quite good. We've got a shopping centre there and it's only a kilometre up the road from our major part of town. So no, I won't be supporting this at all.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Duff, I'm just wondering, in light of the information, I mean, when you put this notice of motion up, and I met with the developer as well, and they sort of put up a convincing argument around what's happening in other towns. He talked about Emerald, for example. They've got these little residential shopping villages that are out where the people are, rather than being in the centre of town now. That seems to be where a lot of this retail development is going. I know in Toowoomba they've got that. In every suburb of Toowoomba there's a little shopping village with a supermarket and a few other shops. That seems to be a little bit of a trend in terms of how it's going. So it was quite a convincing argument. But so when I first read this, I was supportive of it. I'm a little bit concerned now with the information that's come from the staff about the 6 to 9 months and the potentially $50,000, $60,000 for council to do it. And also hearing what the councillors are saying around residential development needs. We do have a housing crisis, as I said before. I'm just wondering, Councillor Duff, having heard what your colleague said, having now seen this additional information, what are your thoughts around your motion? I mean, you're certainly entitled to proceed, but I'm just keen, what are your thoughts now?
So, Mr Mayor, I think I need to proceed on so that I at least give, as Councillor Potter suggested, representation to what the developer has suggested, and at least then if I don't get support, no one seconds it, that he can hear that it's been put to the vote and it's been declined. I don't think that I should back out and not have the views of the developer heard, at least in this forum. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, look, that's fair enough, and we understand that you're putting the motion forward in response to an approach from the developer to do so. So, I mean, it has brought to council. I think I acknowledge Councillor Duff for doing so because he has made that request. So, it is good that you've done that. Brings it to council, we get to consider it, we have a debate, and then we make a decision once and for all. I think that's what I'm hearing from council. Yeah. So that being the case, Councillor Duff, we will have a chance to have a conversation about it. You'll proceed with your notice of motion?
Yes, Mr Mayor, I'd like to move that the motion be as documented in the agenda.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so the notice of motion is that that the committee recommends to council that council proceed to seek approval from the minister for the amendment to council's planning scheme to change the zoning on the land area at 1 to 5 Banksia Drive, Kingaroy, from low-density residential to a local centre zone. 2, council amends the planning scheme for commercial/retail parking requirements to those set down in the planning scheme of the Toowoomba Regional Council. Okay, so Councillor Duff, you're moving that?
Yes, Mr Mayor.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor Jones has seconded. Councillor Duff to speak first, and then we'll give all councillors an opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, I'd just like to put this forward on behalf of the submitter because, I think that we need to decide one way or the other whether we want that area at Banksia Drive to be potentially a shopping centre and that kind of look and that kind of need in the community of Kingaroy and indeed our region, or whether we want it to be something else. So, but if we want it to be to have an opportunity to have those, as you've suggested, that that different type of look where you've got the spread of different shopping centres in Kingaroy, we need to proceed now with this and also then complement it by following up with his suggestion of the planning scheme and the car parking, because if you were doing something like that in Toowoomba, you would only have to have 1 to 28 car parks, whereas in our current planning scheme is 1 to 15, which is, in his mind, prohibitive. So just wanted to have the two complement each other so we make a decision one way or the other whether we want to have that shopping centre option and possibility for Kingaroy, or whether we want to just to not go ahead with that and just say, well, okay, we choose to have that not developed in that way and we want to potentially residential land. So putting the motion forward. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor. And I would, again, make it clear that Council has never said at any stage that the developer, the owner of the land, could not submit an application for an impact assessment. So that is always available to the developer to go through the DA process. So the intended use of the land is still open to be considered by Council through our due process, our planning process. So I just want to make that clear. That has been communicated clearly. So if this is defeated, that's not to say that the developer still would not have the opportunity to go down a process of a development application, which would be impact accessible. Yeah. Councillor Potter, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. With regards to the planning scheme and the parking, I probably don't agree with that one for the pure reason is Toowoomba does have public transport and a lot of people do use public transport in Toowoomba. We do not have public transport in the South Burnett. Therefore, just about everybody gets around by a vehicle. So we do need the extra vehicle spaces, I personally believe, for our planning scheme, and I don't think we should be comparing to Toowoomba. We need to compare to another one like Western Downs or Southern Downs that doesn't have that, the public transport, because, I mean, we all know transport's an issue for everyone in our area.
Yeah, it'd be probably interesting to see comparable town like Dalby or somewhere maybe. I don't know if they have public transport, but that'd be interesting, wouldn't it? Yeah. Yeah. Councillor Erkins?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to use the comparison that in Toowoomba they have shopping centres every, quite close. I just quickly did a search on population. Kingaroy has a population of just over 10,000. Toowoomba has a population, Toowoomba Township, of 140,000. So, I really think that we have adequate shopping at this time for our community.
Further speakers? No. Councillor Henshin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, thank you, Councillor Erkins. Sorry, couldn't you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, we can.
Yeah, it's as Councillor Erkins has said, comparing apples to apples, 130 odd thousand to 10,000. But the other major concern there, and there would have to be, and as the Mayor's alluded to, the cost of this and the time frame. The other major factor there is the entrance and exit into and out of Kingaroy. If there was something that would proceed there to encourage traffic, be it a shopping centre or of some suitable facility there, the traffic would be a nightmare on that highway end, because if you go there from 7 o'clock till 8:30, 9 o'clock this morning, and you want to exit into, and I know there's probably programmed works, forward works along that section of road, but access into and out of any other facility outside of residential there would be an absolute nightmare without a huge amount of money and commitment on that highway into and out of Kingaroy. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. I think Councillor Jones, before we go back to Councillor Duff.
I'm just wary of the time, Mr. Mayor. I want to try and get home before dark, that's all. the cost and the time has been mentioned a number of times, and in my line of thinking, if it was justifiable and money well spent and the time was well worth the extra delay, that doesn't come into it to make my decision. The time, the cost and the time, I can't justify putting a shopping centre or changing the zoning of it. That's simple. I'm not, the cost and the time frame doesn't concern me. It's just that I cannot justify the need for a little local centre up there because we just haven't got the people to service it. And we're going to have empty shops up there, empty shops down here, and it just endorses a bigger problem than we've already got. We don't want to make it worse. So cost and time doesn't come into it to me. It's just non-justifiable as far as I'm concerned. That's why I'm not supporting it.
Thank you, councillor. We'll go back to councillor Duff shortly, but if I could just have, has everyone had an opportunity to speak? I think you have. Oh, councillor Erkins, just your light. You're a bit slow on turning your light off. So thank you. Look, I supported this initially because I think there was a reasonable argument for it, and I want to acknowledge and thank Councillor Duff for bringing this forward because I think your intention was just to get this sorted once and for all, not necessarily to advocate for it, but to get it on the table so council could make a decision. So thank you, Councillor Duff, for doing that. We certainly appreciate it. Since this has come forward, though, I'm hearing and hearing what other councillors have said, taking that on board, I do have concerns around the impact on the progression of the amendment. We do have developers out there who are waiting on the development of the amendment, of the finalisation of the amendment, and it may actually potentially hold up other processes across our region if this planning scheme amendment is deferred by up to 9 months. I'm concerned about the impact that would have on the region. I'm also concerned about the issues that have been raised by councillors here around comparison with Toowoomba now, I suppose. I've rethought that. And certainly the cost. You know, we do have a tight budget. And to find another $60,000 in a budget that is running at deficit, I'm just not sure if we can justify that to our ratepayers. It is their money. So, but I certainly want to thank Councillor Duff for bringing it forward. But I'm probably going to lean away from supporting this in light of the additional information that's come forward. So we'll go to you for final comments, Councillor Duff, and then we'll go to the vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, I'm going to support the motion because I did put it forward and on behalf of the developer because, it does give, like I said, it does give an opportunity to have this aired in the arena of the council. But, I was sympathetic towards the developer and knowing that, as you said, he has an opportunity to put it forward anyway as impact assessable, but that's at a huge risk because if it's zoned correctly, it's a straightforward process and pretty much everybody's on board and it doesn't even need to come back to council, whereas if it's zoned as it currently stands, it's a risk for the developer because they have to go through the process of putting signs up, and then even if council did support it, there's risks of because we went against the actual zoning, that there could be potential court cases and all sorts of things. The developer's not prepared to take that risk. So just putting it out there, putting the motion forward and see.
Thank you, councillor. Well, let's go to the vote. Okay, those in favour, Councillor Duff. Those against, Councillor Erkins, Jones, Potter, Henshin and Otto. So the motion's been defeated 5 votes to 1. Thank you, councillors. That was certainly a productive discussion. Thank you again, Councillor Duff, for bringing that forward for the committee's consideration. In light of that motion being defeated, we'll now move to 7.1, which is at page 50, where we have a report from our staff. And I'm going to go straight to the recommendation, as we have discussed this quite extensively already. And I have read some of the information from this. So the recommendation is that the committee recommend to council, 1, that council does not seek approval from the minister to amend the South Burnett Regional Planning Scheme to change the zoning of 1 to 5 Banksia Drive, Kingaroy, from low density residential to local centre (shopping centre). 2, that the council undertakes a further review of commercial/retail parking requirements during the public consultation period of the amendment of the South Burnett Regional Planning Scheme. Do we have a mover? Councillor Jones. Seconded, Councillor Potter. We'll go to speakers. Councillor Jones.
Mr Mayor, I think you've already covered it. We've spoken, this same conversation was had at the previous agenda item, and I don't think there's anything needs more to be said. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Further speakers? Okay, let's go to the vote. Those in favour? Councillor Erkins, Jones, Potter, Henshin and Otto. Those against? Councillor Duff. The motion has been carried. 5 votes to 1. Thank you all. Okay, I'd now like to welcome Councillor Potter to provide her community development, arts and heritage, waste and recycling management and library services portfolio report, which is at page 54. Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. There is quite a bit in my report today, but there is some really important stuff here. So the Council's Community Grants Assessment Panel met on the 23rd of September on 2022 and assessed the round 1 of the Community Grants Program. Council received 40 applications totalling $75,615.95 requests for support, and I'm pleased to announce the following organisations were successful in the applications. So the Australia Day Anzac Day funding, we have the Highsville Progress Association, NATTA and the Cumbria and District Memorial School of the Arts, each with $1,000. Community Hall Insurance for $1,000 goes to each Mondure Public Hall Committee, the Warrulan Community Committee and the Iron Pot Farmers. With the community sponsorship, the Wandai Proston Wolves Rugby League Club to upgrade canteen, $1,500. The Rotary Club at Mergen for the Mergen Music Muster, $1,500. Eva's Place Pregnancy and Early Parenting Support Incorporated, $1,499. The South Burnett Jam and Fosking Club, $1,600 for their gem show. Nanango RSL Sub-Branch, for the Nanango RSL Sub-Branch Memorabilia, $1,500. The Peace of Mind White Dove Ball, $1,476. Nanango and District Netball, $1,500. Baramba Ministers Association for the Mergen Community Christmas Carols, $1,000. The Nango Community Men's Shed for DFIB, $1,372. The Kingaroy and District Ministry Association for the Christmas Carols, $2,000. Cumbria and District Memorial School of the Arts for the Cumbria Christmas Carnival, $1,000. Proston and District Heritage Association for the publishing of their book, $3,000. The Veterans Motorcycle West Club Chapter, $667. The Queensland Dairy and Heritage Museum in Mergen, $598. The Kingaroy Men's Shed, $1,381. Blackbutt Banarkan Lions Club, $1,600. Creative Country Association, $1,656. I've also got some others that aren't in the agenda, but they will be added later, I'm thinking. So we've got the EOI, the Localised Mental Health Initiatives. We have the Wanda Amateur Swimming Club, $3,000. The Kingaroy Chamber of Commerce and Industry for the South Burnett Workforce Crisis Counselling Support Program, $3,000. You're Down for a Wellbeing Market Day, $3,000. The Bunny Mountains Community Association for a Vibrant, Healthy and Connected Community, Bunny Mountains, $2,000. South Burnett CTC, who are auspicing for the South Burnett Sexual Assault Awareness Working Group, $1,350. With the RADF grants, successful applicants were the Queensland Ballet to do a Queensland Ballet Rural Engagement Tour for $2,000. The South Burnett Orchestra, the South Burnett Community Orchestra presents Sue Ellen Paulson in concert, $3,000. Kingaroy Art Gallery, Creativity Unlimited, $3,000. Arthur Conlon Deadly Arthur, the Indigenous Mural and Staff Development on Indigenous Perspectives, $3,000. Kingaroy State High School P&C Association, a celebration of connection to country, $3,000. And Olivia Everett to do a grants writing for the Arts Workshop series at $2,126. So I'd like to to say congratulations to all of those groups that have received some of that funding. And it's wonderful to get so many applications in. Mental Health Week. There are many opportunities for members of the South Burnett to join in the different things happening around the area for Mental Health Week, which is this week. The South Burnett Suicide Prevention Working Group are joining in and helping many organisations with advertising for mental health activities. There are quite a few flyers attached to the end of my portfolio report that cover different information on Mental Health Week and many other upcoming events also. The South Burnett Sexual Assault Action Group will be holding a Reclaim the Night event on Thursday the 27th of October from 5 till 8 p.m. in the Kingaroy Town Hall forecourt, which includes a barbecue, a presentation followed by a march through the CBD, and again, please see attached flyer. Pinking Up South Burnett. We have Councillor Duff, myself, have launched the Pinking Up South Burnett. So the McGrath Foundation supports the breast care nurse, which in turn supports our community. We are very lucky in the South Burnett to have the wonderful Sue Cox as our breast care nurse, who has over 100 people that she supports throughout the South Burnett from diagnosis through treatment and recovery. Breast cancer patients have to leave the South Burnett for treatment, and Sue supports them and their families when they are back in their home community to help them navigate through their diagnosis, treatment and recovery through emotional, clinical and educational support for them and their family. Sue Cox is more than happy to attend functions to discuss breast cancer or any fundraising for the McGrath Foundation Pinking Up. She's more than happy to discuss her work, and she's also more than happy to bank any money that your organisation receive for Pinking Up, and she can supply you with a receipt. Her telephone number is there if you would like to contact her and organise a function and a fundraiser for the McGrath Foundation. The South Burnett Health and Community Expo meet and greet the organisation has commenced. This event will be held on Thursday the 3rd of November 2022 at the Kingaroy Town Hall. This event is in partnership between Council and Darling Downs West Moreton PHN. And it's a great opportunity for all residents who visit to visit and connect with a variety of different health services available within the region. The meet and greet gives our local GPs and hospital staff an opportunity to meet and network with other service providers. This event is funded through the Black Summer Bushfire Grant. Youth Council recently met with Matt Vells, the business manager of your town, with a view to work together with their organisation to facilitate some out-of-school activities aimed at youth in the South Burnett. This is one of the projects identified by the Youth Council through their leadership weekend. The Youth Mental Health Oversight Committee meeting will be held on Tuesday the 25th of October, and 2 members of the Youth Council will be attending that one. The Council, in partnership with SB will be hosting a seniors morning tea. The event will be held at the Town Common Hall in Oliver Bond Street in Kingaroy on Thursday the 20th of October from 9 till 11 with entertainment provided by Louise Winton. And this year's theme is, it's going to be a Connect Fest. Arts, Culture and Heritage. The South Burnett Regional Council are working with Central Queensland University Regional Arts Services Network to pilot a tour circuit across the North and South Burnett regions. This proposed tour will be held in Kingaroy in early 2023 and will feature the musical artists The Ironing Maidens. While this event will be targeted at the younger audience, all age groups will be welcome to attend. If this pilot project is successful, the South Burnett can expect to host more events at a much lower cost. Work is progressing also to complete the South Burnett Regional Arts Council, the South Burnett Regional Council Arts, Culture and Heritage Strategic Plan. Before I go on to waste and recycling, there's just a couple of other things I want to add. With regards to our community, the South Burnett Musical Comedy Society is performing Fiddler on the Roof. I think the next performances are Friday, Saturday and Sunday. That is going to be a fantastic event. I'm going to that one on Friday night. And then we've also got the Kingaroy Chamber of Commerce and Industry Smile Gala on Friday night. Busy weekend for everyone. And then we've also got the Nanango Heritage Waterhole Rocks this weekend in Nanango, and the opening for that one is Friday night. So, but that one does go all weekend, and it should be a fantastic weekend. So it's wonderful to see. Waste and recycling management. Mr Mayor, there is quite a bit of stuff there, so if you don't mind, I might just take the rest of my report as being read. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Potter. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Jones, thank you. Speakers, Councillor Erkins.
I would just like to congratulate Councillor Potter. One of the things, I haven't attended many of the things that she's involved in, but I was at the Relay of Life, and it was great to see South Burnett staff members there and South Burnett councillors who came and supported the event, and it really was a fabulous event. And probably, I was saying to Councillor Potter this morning, the first lap that they do with the survivors and the bagpipes, anyone that can keep dry eyes when they do that, they're doing pretty well. It's a very, very emotional event, and I don't think that there are any of us that haven't in some way been affected by cancer in either ourselves or our families. And I'd just like to compliment Councillor Potter on the job that she did down there, as well as the other councillors. I know that Councillor Jones and Councillor Henshin were very active in their fundraising. Their fundraising for the with their cricket match, but not to forget that Councillor Henshin was unable to bowl out Councillor Duff at the opening of the nets. Just thought I'd mention that.
I think he was being a gentleman, actually. Councillor Duff.
Might I add, excuse me, Mr Mayor, through you, might I add that Councillor Duff had been practising furiously for a couple of weeks leading up to that.
I don't think that comes as a surprise to anyone in the chamber, Councillor Hitchin. Thank you. We thought you'd do that. Okay, Councillor Duff.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, I just wanted to add that I am related to the Sipples. My mum was a Sipple, so there's a lot of cricket background there. So I do have some natural talent. But what I wanted to say was I wanted to flag that Leanne and Barry Crosh donated a cheque for $5,000 to launch the Pinking Up South Burnett, and I just think that they need to be acknowledged. I thought that was a fantastic, donation. And it's probably more than we've raised in any of the Pinking Ups, just first up to launch that with $5,000. So just wanted to give a big shout out to Leanne and Barry Crosh. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor. Yeah, Councillor Henshin.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. And just a quick plug to the community out there, and Councillor Erkins, thank you. But yeah, the cricket relay for life in the cricket match, it's not exactly been finalised yet, I don't believe, but around $27,000. That's thanks to the community, not about us guys, and the Carl Rackmans and the Simons and Spud and myself. It was completely private, personal, outside of council, but the people that supported that, along with all these events, and Councillor Potter, your Relay for Life, huge success, and the South Burnett bats way above, and Councillor Duff, you said before, South Burnett bats way above its weight in this space, and it is an absolute credit to the community of the South Burnett.
Thank you, Councillor. Further speakers? Councillor Potter?
Yeah, I actually just need to say this. It was this figure was given to me on Saturday night when we opened Relay for Life. So since Relay for Life's been going in the South Burnett 16 years or such, South Burnett has raised $1.7 million. And that is wholly in the South Burnett area. And I'd just like to congratulate the South Burnett for doing such an amazing job for an organisation that helps so many people. $1.7 million, I mean, that figure, it still gives me goosebumps when I think about it. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you to the South Burnett.
Thank you, Councillor Potter. Mr General Manager, would we be able to ask our media team to perhaps issue a media statement from Councillor Potter on behalf of Council, if Councillor Potter, just acknowledging and thanking the wonderful work that committee has done in raising so much money with Rowena and Carl and everybody involved and all their wonderful volunteers. I think that's a great news story to go out to the South Burnett. I think as a council it would be lovely if we could thank them and acknowledge them for their work publicly. Yeah, if we could organise that with our media team. Thank you. Yeah. Oh, there's Jo. Jo's nodding. Thank you. She's on the job. The other thing I want to just mention quickly is of course, council again provided a significant amount of money to all those community organisations. All these community sponsorship grants spread right across the region to all of these small community organisations. It was really, I think it was really warming to hear all the different groups that are getting funding, that have applied, that have taken up the opportunity. And I just wanted to thank and acknowledge those groups that have put forward applications. These are all volunteers out there doing great work for our community. And I'd also like to thank and acknowledge the staff for organising the process, processing the applications, and for the councillors who sat on that committee and other people who sat on that committee to make these tough decisions. And I think you've done a great job in finding a really wonderful balance across the region. So thanks for everyone that was involved in that. It's a great outcome. Anything further? Other speakers? No? Happy to wrap up, Councillor Potter? We'll go to the vote. Those in favour, carried unanimously. Thank you all. I think we might break for morning tea. So I'll now move that we adjourn for morning tea. Seconded, Councillor Henson. I've never seen his computer. He's come up so quickly on that computer. I think he had his hand up before I even said it. Hello? Councillor Henson's got the jug boiled already. So, seconded, Councillor Henson. We'll go to the vote. Those in favour, carried unanimously. Thank you all. We'll resume at 11:30. Move that we resume the meeting. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Potter, thank you. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Okay, committee, we're up to 7.3, which is the Community and Lifestyle Operational Update at page 88, where it's recommended that the update be received for information. Do we have a mover? Councillor Potter. Seconder? Yep. Councillor Jones. Any questions on the update? Everyone's had a chance to read it. Anything to highlight? Manager? No? Pretty comfortable? Yeah, anything quickly just to highlight for us? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. It's been another busy month. Just wanting to, I guess, highlight the work in community development particularly. We're starting to become more visible out in the community, delivering the Black Summer Bushfire Recovery Grants Program. We've had a run of information sessions this week and a few more next week, and we're really happy with the attendance and the projects being put forward by our community groups, looking to, I guess, engage with council to do more activities in that area of recovery and resilience. Certainly, our community development officer is really starting to hit the ground running and is available to support community groups, not just through grants, but also through I guess, supporting in any governance issues in community development, looking at constitutions, helping with complying with incorporation, those sort of check-in, I guess, activities as well. And as well, they're going to be looking at running more events in the new year. Again, happy to be guided by what community is looking for and what sort of events they'd like to participate in. So that's the biggest highlight. There's a list of events there, some that are already passed, but I guess the next one that we've already mentioned by Councillor Potter is the Health and Community Expo, and the Community Furniture Scent Sale is coming up as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Manager. Any matters to raise, councillors? Gee, haven't the library put through some numbers? 36,000 people have visited the libraries in 3 months, and they have loaned out 22,000 items, with 241 new members joining in that 3 months. They're amazing stats, aren't they? Yeah, Councillor Potter.
Mr Mayor, I always say we have the best libraries, so yes, I totally agree.
Hard to argue, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely. General Manager.
Yeah, Mr Mayor, I was just going to mention, so I think you had requested an update on the community development, a report come back on that community development officer position, and that's why I think Jen was just... Manager of Community was just detailing the work they're doing there. So just confirming you're comfortable with that update.
Yes, very comfortable. Thank you, General Manager. And it's great to see that there's so much happening with all these events, projects and events happening across our region that have been funded by that Black Summer Bushfire Recovery Grant. I'd like to acknowledge the staff for applying and obviously bringing that $1.6 million into the budget so we could deliver this. And also to the federal government and our local federal members for supporting that. Very much grateful received. And to the staff, great to have a communities team now resourced to deliver these services across our region. Of course, as we know, communities, livability is a major focus in our corporate plan. It's nice to be able to actually have now some boots on the ground out there delivering for our community. So thanks very much, Manager. It's a really important part of what we do. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, General Manager. Councillor Duff.
Just with the Black Summer Bushfire Grant and the shop facades, is that part of what you're progressing, or is that a different? Because I just wanted to flag, I know that about the proportions and some's going to the other towns, but it's become a bit of a concern to me now that there's some areas in the towns that are in and some are out, and I know I had to get back to a frustrated Mergen businessman, and also there's another business in Wandai that wanted to do some facade improvements, and they're outside the mapped area. And I just wondered, is there an opportunity to perhaps tweak that mapped area, or why we've cut some of the businesses out even in those towns? Like what I know the motels in Wandai can't do it, and in Mergen, if you're in McAllister Street, you can't. Even though the shops are all on McAllister Street, they can't apply, but yet Lamb Street can. So just a bit frustrated about that, and wondering if we can relook at those maps.
Yeah.
If that's
Thanks, Councillor. We might go to Mr. General Manager. In terms of within the grant funding, I suppose there's guidelines there, isn't there? Is there any option to if we could potentially?
Through Mr. I suppose the concept of defining it to those CBD or areas in each of the towns was to probably get more bang for your buck, where we're getting businesses that are closely settled there. You can see an impact. If we spread it too thin and dilute it, then you risk actually just diluting the whole project. And it also this will act as if this is a really successful project, then that there'll be the opportunity to seek further funding, or the council put further funding into expanding it out of those areas. So I suppose it was just really we've got to have. There isn't enough funding to go across the board, so there's going to be ins and outs. So we have just tried to, and you've got relatively well-designed central business district. If you start to pick and choose sort of sporadically, it just dilutes it. So that's the rationale behind having it in those identified areas where, and particularly if you can get 3 or 4 shops together and they can get the same painter and get or cheaper deals, then it certainly will help spread the money a bit further. So that's the rationale behind the maps. I would think that if we ran through the first round and see the take up, and obviously we can review it if there is limited take up, or if there's excess, we can look at spreading it. But I'd be sort of reluctant to change it sort of at this stage, and just try focus in on those core areas in each of the towns.
Yeah, that might be a good solution. Councillor Duff, as General Manager, saying that we run round one. If we don't get a full uptake and there's still funds available, possibly an option for council then to say, look, we'll extend the area to pick up some of those businesses outside that original CBD footprint as a round 2 if there was funding available. Well, anyway, what are your thoughts, Councillor? We'll go to Manager first. Manager Point, your thoughts around that, and we might then come back to you, Councillor Duff.
Certainly just with the process now that we've advertised the grant guidelines the way they are, and that they are reasonably consistent between the CBD area in Kingaroy and the South Burnett townships. So certainly if we don't have a big uptake and we see other funding come available to do something similar like this, the hard part is always defining a business. So we wanted to try and make sure that we were very clear with, I guess, who was in and who was out, so we didn't have people wasting time filling in an application and then finding out they're ineligible. So rather than just have a definition and the guidelines of a facade and a business, that we were very clear about the streets and addresses that were eligible. Some people view that a rural business, that is out obviously in the rural location, their facade would be their front gateway and the entrance to their property, because that's their registered place of business. So we just wanted to make sure, I guess, that it was targeted and that our time was spent skilling those businesses and targeting those businesses in the CBD area, and not having the confusion about who was in and who was out. I absolutely take on board that we were at the Bondi Business Association breakfast, and the feedback, yes, was from the motel that they were ineligible because they're outside that defined area. And it's, I guess, the nature of rural towns that we do have a spread, but we're trying to just concentrate on getting the maximum value in geographically in a small area.
Thank you, Manager. Councillor Duff, we've gone out, this is already out in the public, so we've got a process in place. If we were to say, well, if we don't get a full uptake on the 300,000, that could come back to council for consideration of potentially expanding it, might be something to consider. Yeah, Councillor Duff, what would your thoughts be around that as a phase 2, should the funding not be all taken up?
Yes, I'd be happy with that if the money wasn't utilised by the existing mapped areas, that it could be opened up to those areas outside the mapped area. That I'd be happy with that.
Well, we're not tampering with our existing We're not tampering with our existing process, are we? We can allow it to run its course. Yeah. Okay. I just want to acknowledge also that we have got grants information sessions running around the region. Councillors we've all been speaking with our communities over the last several months about the fact that council is going to be committing to providing more services to support organisations around applying for grants. It's great to see we've now got a grants officer come on board, and there's grants information sessions have started this week. So we've had, thanks to Manager Point and her team, we've had Kingaroy Town Hall Monday evening. Blackbutt Town Hall was on Tuesday evening, and Nanango, as was the Nango. We've got on the 17th of October, Proston and Mergen. On the 18th of October, Wandai. On the 20th of October, Kingaroy. On the 3rd of November, Kingaroy. And on the 19th of November, the final one is the 18th of October in Wandai. Then we've got the Seniors Morning Tea, the Health and Community Expo, and the Community Furniture Scent Sale, which Councillor Potter also referred to. So there's lots happening, isn't there, already? We've hit the ground running, which is great. Thanks, Manager. But those grants information sessions, I'd encourage all the clubs out there to get along to those, all community organisations to get along to those, because they'll be valuable information as to how you can access grant funding and the processes for that. So, and the information's on Council's website. Yeah, thank you. Okay, anything further from councillors? If not, we'll go to the vote. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you all. Thank you, Manager. We'll go on to 7.4, Environment and Waste Services Operational Update at 104. Recommendation is there that the update be received for information. Do we have a mover? Councillor Potter, seconder. Councillor Erkins. Okay, we might go straight then to you, Manager Lyle. Thank you. We've got you up the front.
Thank you. Through the Mayor, I just want to allude to councillors. We've discovered a data error in our reporting, and it's gone right through this. When you look at from CRMs, where animals, down to public health customer request, you can see that animal, the numbers are the same there, and we did a check, and there's a data error. So we will redo that for the council meeting. But I'd just like to, it looks like, allude to the numbers, the figures there in relation to environmental inquiries. They certainly have increased this year, and also overgrown allotments are up comparative to last year. And just to let councillors know, just to follow up, that we're currently out interviewing for compliance officers at the moment. We have put a contractor compliance officer on. We only have one permanent compliance officer acting with the council with a contractor. We are interviewing at the moment, so we should have a full complement, hoping, in the next month or so. But it is a heavy program, and I think they've done a wonderful job to get where we are. We still got a number of CRMs, but we are strategising those to get the most important, doing a risk analysis of which ones we've got to do first. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Acting Manager. And just before we go any further, I'd like to welcome our new Manager of Planning and Environment, Daryl Brooks. Daryl's here with us today. Thank you, Daryl, and welcome. Great to have you back. and we'd like to also acknowledge the great work that Manager Lyle has done acting in this role. We just keep asking him to stay a bit longer, and he's been very kind in doing so. So, do you want to add a few words, General Manager? Thank you.
Oh, no, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I was just going to, ask you to acknowledge, Mike's done a great job. So this is Mike's last standing committee. So we didn't throw Daryl in the deep end and say on day 2 you can, or day 3 you can. Mike's been looking after the team for the last 12 months. So this was his last standing committee. Mike's with us through just to the end of the month, just to support Daryl and the team, sort of in a changeover. So from myself to I'll just acknowledge all of the support you have provided me and the council over your time here, and thanks for all your efforts, and welcome aboard, Daryl. Thanks.
Thanks, General Manager. Yeah, Mike, it's been great to have you here. You've been excellent to work with, so we've really appreciated having you around. Yeah, thank you.
Through the Mayor, I'll just say a couple of words. Look, it's been wonderful to work here. I love the people and I love the work, and I've got a wonderful staff working with me and with the team, and I'm sure Daryl's going to build that from strength to strength. And I thank you very much for your patience over the last 14 months, but I appreciate it. Thank you.
And thanks very much, Acting Manager. Okay, anything further on the report? No, we'll go to the vote. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you all. 7.5, update on Head to Health co-design at 108. And we have that report there where it's recommended that it be received for information. Do we have a mover? Councillor Potter, thanks. Councillor Erkins has seconded. Speakers? Anything to update us on there? Councillor Potter, thank you.
Look, I'd just like to say thank you to the co-design team. One of our council people are all on that team as well. The co-design team have worked together to discuss the finding and needs for within our particular area and what's needed with the Kingaroy Head to Health satellites. So I'm just very excited. So as of the 1st of July next year, we should be up and running. So this is actually a really good thing for the South Burnett.
Thank you, Councillor Potter, and thanks for the work that you've been doing in this space. Of course, no more important matter than taking care of the mental health of our residents across the region. Councillor Duff.
Just a question through you, Mr. Mayor. Just wanting to know, I know you'll see that you've identified farmers and single parents and Indigenous people as having challenges because of the diversity of our region. Just wanting to know what and I've read the dot points, but what is the actual plan with the Head to Health, for example, for farmers? Is it an online approach, or is it actually people on the ground, or what's the long-term plan to address, say, for example, a farmer's challenges?
Thank you, Councillor Duff. I may have to defer because I don't know enough about the plan. So this is going out for tender. If it's not already out for tender, it's going out for tender very shortly. So with regards to that particular plan, the way it works, I know that anybody who walks in that door will be helped. So whether they're sort of pointed towards another agency or not, I don't know. But that's probably a question I will have to defer, Mr. Mayor, until we get some more details on the actual sort of once the tender is out and things like that, and whoever gets that tender, we will know more after that, because I suppose that probably falls in the hands of the person who actually wins that tender.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Potter. I think on page 109.10 sort of does indicate that, doesn't it, that's going to go to that sort of support, incorporation of non-clinical empowering wraparound support options, including a drop-in for a chat, support for people who are illiterate, drop-in spaces for peer supporters to assist people to read, respond to emails, letters for other services such as Centrelink. So that tends to tell us that there's going to be, it's going to be non-clinical, it's going to be very support-oriented, people you can come and talk with or reach out to. So that's really encouraging to hear. Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, they call it like a soft space. So it's a welcoming space. you know, to not put people off. They want people to be able to walk in that door or make that phone call and just come in and not feel anxiety about doing so.
Yeah, it's very broad too. It tends to people with alcohol and drug issues, suicide prevention, aftercare, housing and homelessness, domestic and family violence, and family support. And no doubt there will be a big focus on our farmers, has been indicated. Yeah, it's going to be a big step forward for our region. Any further speakers? Everyone comfortable? We'll go to the vote. Those in favour, carry unanimously. Thank you all. 7.6, Ringsfield House Advisory Committee, it's 114. We do have a recommendation there, committee, that the committee recommend to council that Simone Cusack, thanks councillors, is appointed as the booking and event coordinator. Irene Sue Wallace is appointed as the volunteer manager, and Rebecca Bainton is appointed as the museum curator. Do we have a mover? Councillor Potter's gone up high. Thank you. Councillor Henson's Councillor Erkins will pick you up. Sorry, Councillor Henson, I'll get you next time because, of course, it's your division. So we have a move and a seconder. Speakers, Councillor Potter, and then we'll go to Councillor Councillor Erkins. Thank you.
I just think this is an exciting time for Ringsfield House, and you know, the people that have put their hand forward and just said that they will do these jobs. It's wonderful to have them on board. And I mean, look out Nanango, here comes Ringsfield House.
Yes, indeed. Councillor Erkins.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. When we had our meeting over there of interested people, you know, it was really a great meeting. There was about 18, was it? People attended, and I do believe that there are probably a couple of people who did attend that meeting who were a little shy of maybe putting themselves forward. But I'm going to speak to those and try and encourage them to put the name forward for those other positions. And the people that have been appointed, you know, they were really, I think they'll be a great benefit to the House, and, you know, really looking forward to working with them and seeing something happen there.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further speakers? No. We'll go to the vote. Those in favour, carried unanimously. Thank you all. 7.7, Bacon Fest at 116. Mr. General Manager, could you give us an introduction? Thank you.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, so this is just an information report at a request from Councillor Duff just on the level of support for Bacon Fest. So we've just ran a quick report. As you go through it, asset hire will be plant hire, so any equipment, trucks, utes, whatever you use. Labour is obviously labour. External purchases might be like our creditors. So I haven't detailed all of that. And then we have detailed out just what the waste collection, the skip drop off and collection, the disposal fees. So it was in the vicinity of 6,900 for Bacon Fest. So yeah, just a report for information.
Yeah, thanks very much, gentlemen. Just so it's recommended that the report be received. We have a mover, Councillor Jones, seconded Councillor Henson. Speakers, Councillor Duff. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I actually did this on the back of a request from one of the Mergen people. It was, yeah, so I don't know that it's detailed enough. They'll probably put in a request for a right to information, because there's no, like, it's not documented. Like the hall hire, for example, I can't see where it's listed. So I think the hall hire would be more than any of these figures that have been put forward here. So I just would have liked to have seen it a bit more. It's not my concern. It's just a concern of one of the residents of one of the not-for-profit groups that has asked me. Yeah, and I just thought maybe it needed to be a bit more detailed. So just hoping that, is it possible in the next period that you might be able to just itemise those, or else, yeah, I don't know how I'm going to get back to this particular concerned resident with it doesn't make, to me, that it's hard to, would be hard to articulate what each of those items are for.
Yeah, through Miss Mayor. Yeah, so I suppose it was more providing as general, wasn't really, where the query from. It probably is something that someone should come through a right to information if they want that level of detail. So they should probably actually put that in, because I definitely wouldn't want to be putting out like the details of labour and who those employees were and the costs and that level of detail. So if someone's got a particular issue, they can talk to us again, whether this commercial conference. So it probably is appropriate if they put follow the proper process and a right to information if there is further things, because there will be some things that we've only provided, but like Bacon Fest, mate, like the committee have probably paid for certain things too, so it mightn't be here because they've paid for some services. But yeah.
Councillor Erkins.
I was okay with the report till you said that you thought someone should have to put a right for information. I have to agree with Kathy that that's not a very, sorry, Councillor Duff, that's not very comprehensive. And I understand what you're saying about the labour. You don't want to see, Joe Bloggs did such and such, but it might have been helpful to say, we supplied labour for putting up whatever. And I'm not meaning that as a criticism. I'm meaning it as people do like to know. And I know at committees that I'm on, we look to seek council assistance, and it's nice to know what assistance has been given to other organisations. So, I don't think the request is an outrageous request.
I think also it's important to note this isn't just about targeting Bacon Fest. If it's not too much work, General Manager Jarvis, it would be nice to just a quick summary report where we do give larger in-kind support to events. I know we've got the Mergen Music Muster coming up, and Council's committed to giving a fair swag of in-kind support to that. The report does come back to Council, even if it's just a couple of lines to say, we provided, staff support to this amount, we provided, hall hire to this amount, and we provided vehicles to this amount, just I think an overview, because then we can tell the community this is what Council's doing to support community events across the region. I think it's really important that we do share that. Otherwise, I don't think the community necessarily understands how much Council puts into supporting our community events through in-kind support. Yeah, what are your thoughts around that?
Through you, Mr Mayor, very happy to assist you in that matter. We do have a legal obligation to report on that annually through our annual report, but I think that possibly people wouldn't know where to go and look for that information, so very happy to oblige.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Yeah, we certainly can. So obviously with Bacon Fest and some of the others, they come through to Council first, and we approved the support that we were providing, and I think the hall hire wasn't part of that, but if that's the particular question around it, so obviously the removal of the waste and that, so yeah, we can probably bring a summary. I suppose it was approved through Council and we provided it, and then we can just probably reluctant to go and spend more time and money just chasing up something that's happened when it has been through and approved. But if that's Council's wishes, and then we can.
I think we should create a mountain of work for our staff. I think just where we have major contributions, so anything significant outside of the community grants program that we approve, it's nice to have a report back, just to come back and say, look, this is how much the Council did invest in supporting that, and to put some media around that too as well, so people can see that it's not just Bacon Fest. We do it for the Mergen, we might do it for another festival in Blackbud or Nananga or wherever it might be. It's very important that we get that out to the community, just for those major events, General Manager Jarvis, into the future. Yeah, Councillor Erkin, sorry.
I just want to stress I have no objections to Council supporting. In fact, I welcome Council support, because I believe that most of these community organisations are run by volunteers who put in a lot of time and effort to give a service to our community. So the fact that Council support them is something that I definitely welcome and like to see, because the Bacon Festival is a big festival. It brings a lot of people in, the same as other towns and other events that happen, both here and across the region. So I want it to be understood that I don't disagree with it. In fact, I think Council should give support wherever and however they can for these community groups.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor. Okay, happy if we move on. Councillor Duff, we'll move on. We'll close that one off, and in future we can maybe look to put a reporting regime in place, General Manager Jarvis, just for those major events that are over and above the $2,000. I think that's in our policy. Obviously, those, we don't want to bother you with that, but those major events, yeah, we have a little reporting system in place, that'd be great. Yeah, shouldn't be too many of them per year. No. Okay, well, let's go to the vote on this one. Those in favour? Carry unanimously. Thank you all. 8.1, we now have the Development Services and Community and Social Housing Portfolio Report at 118, and Councillor Shoemaker is absent today. Am I on the right track here, Pete? Yep. So the recommendation is, I think we'll take this one as presented, as read. Happy with that? Councillor Shoemaker's Development Services, Community and Social Housing Portfolio Report to Council be received for information. Moved by Councillor Henson, seconder. Yep, Councillor Potter, thank you. Any questions in relation to the report? Councillors, no? Go to the vote. Those in favour? Carry unanimously. Thank you all. 8.2, the Planning and Land Management Operational Update at 120. Acting Manager Lyle, we might go to you. Thank you.
Through the Mayor. Yes, councillors can see from the activity that there's been quite a bit of planning activity through those planning, building, plumbing areas, where the indication was that some of the building activity and development activity may slow down with the aspect of interest rates increasing and so on. But so those figures are there for council's notification, and it's been a very busy period. And I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks very much, Manager, and thanks for bringing forward this report for the committee to consider. Overall, it looks as though year to date we're tracking consistently with last financial year. There hasn't been a real downturn as yet, has there? Plenty of planning applications coming in, plenty of building applications, a lot of work happening in terms of building and plumbing certification right across the region. So keeping our team very busy. Yeah, thank you. Anything? Okay, well, we'll get a mover in a second. Do we have a mover for the report? Yeah, Councillor Erkins, thanks. Secondly, Councillor Potter. Any speakers? No, we'll go to the vote. Those in favour? Carry unanimously. Thank you all. 8.3, policies to support the development application and assessment process at 124. Manager Lyle, are you happy to lead the conversation on that one? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through the Mayor. Yeah, councillors, we had discussions in relation about council briefing sessions, and we had an undertaking to bring to commence those in November. Staff have been very busy in relation to our customer request and planning obligations. However, we've come up with some developed some processes of policies for council consideration. They're only in the draft development stage. As you can see, they've got the draft watermark on them for council's consideration, and the recommendations will be that they'll go through the proper corporate governance framework. They haven't been through that framework as yet. So the aspect, council's discussions in relation to briefing sessions is a very valid one, and I think that we can cater for that in relation. We're developing a spreadsheet so we can show councillors, have the briefing sessions, which are in confidence, of course, because there's some sensitive developments and it's all commercial in confidence. We'll develop that for council. This is all to ensure that we have transparent, effective process. All the councillors have the same information, and delivery of the good governance over the planning application process. And I've got some information there. You can have a look at the policies. One of the second policy there in relation to pre-lodgement meetings, it has been topical. Councillors asked about pre-lodgement meetings, and some councils have asked sought the availability to be present at all pre-lodgement meetings. We did analysis with other councils and some of the governance around some of the legal aspects, and formed the view that it's probably not appropriate for councillors to be at all pre-lodgement meetings. Councillors can meet with any developers. They can look at any development and pre or after subsequent to an application being submitted, such as when we get applications recently on a feedlot where councillors go up and have a look at the complainant's stand on ration of feedlot, and they might get an invitation for the applicant's side of view, and I think that's entirely appropriate. And then the staff will obviously, through the due diligence process, provide a comprehensive report to council for their assessment. So that recommendation is that we have governance around that. One of the other aspects to ensure that governance process and to ensure that all the councillors are informed with the same information is that when councillors have meetings with developers, that they provide that information back to the CEO so that it can be shared with other councillors, because not all councillors can be available at all one time, and we understand the vagaries of, councillors are very busy and you get opportunities to meet with developers. So it's just bringing that governance to put in some policies so that council, everybody's aware, and it also, the policies in relation to pre-lodgement, it just sets parameters around for the applicants, because it's pre-lodgement's not a guarantee of approval or acceptance of their development. It's giving them, when you look at 3.3, what does a pre-lodgement intend to do? And it just confirms council's requirements, identify any needs in the application. It's not there for a detailed assessment of the application. It's not to determine an outcome of the application, and it just provides a detailed assessment for the applicant to know which way they go. Many applicants have professional planning staff who undertake the process for them, and they certainly still have pre-lodgement meetings. But particularly, one of the particular advantages is having with our, I just sort of generic term, mum and dad developers, and we've had a lot of success because we instead of writing them large copious emails, we get them in now and go through the process, find out and understand what they're trying to achieve, particularly in the subdivision area. We've had quite a good success there where we've talked to them, and once we've discovered what they really want, we've been able to satisfactorily come up with a solution for their needs. So this is some processes. I'm just recommending that these policies go through the process, and there's a recommendation there for council to put this through the governance process. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Manager. And did you want to add anything, General Manager, before we proceed?
No, yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. No, so yeah, as the manager has stated, there's probably just a introduction to councillors providing those policies, so they will go through that governance framework where they'll be circulated out. You'll be asked for your input, as will staff. So just because it had requested through the standing committee last meeting, they were just represented here, so you've got an early sneak preview, and then the policy framework will go through. So yeah, it's really in council's hand for feedback, and they'll come back for endorsement at a future meeting.
Thank you, General Manager. First of all, could I certainly thank Manager Lyle and your team for bringing forward these two policies so promptly in response to the issues raised by Council. Just a bit of background here for those who haven't had a chance, perhaps even in the community. We have two policies here, one which addresses pre-lodgement development application meetings. So Council provides to any intending applicant the opportunity to meet with our planning team, to have what we call a pre-lodgement meeting. Under this policy, the intent of that is really to provide guidance and effectively streamline the development process, answer questions, and try and support receiving a well-made application. It's not to identify all issues may not be covered at the pre-lodgement meeting. Other issues could come up throughout the application assessment process, and it's certainly not intended to determine application outcomes. So, staff won't be giving any indication or preempting any outcomes at those pre-lodgement meetings. They are about providing assistance, support and guidance to support the completion of the application. The policy here is stating that obviously that would be open to applicants and their representatives to meet with staff, but does not provide for councillors to attend those. In fact, it specifically says councillors would not be attending those pre-lodgement meetings. But in place of that, we have a second policy that supports this, which provides for planning and development briefing sessions by council to happen once a month, where we'll receive a spreadsheet, a briefing, and this policy outlines the framework within which, the process within which those briefings would take place. So it clearly defines that that is for the sharing of information, providing staff the opportunity to advise councils around issues, updates, etc., but is certainly not to be formal decisions, or informal decisions are not to be made. It's not to encourage debate or engage in debate around a matter. It's purely an information providing session, and that any council that has a conflict of interest would need to have that addressed prior to the briefing session, as we would do in any other in a council meeting. These meetings would be chaired by the CEO, or in his absence by the general manager. So look, I've read these policies. For me, as a councillor, I'm very comfortable. I think they're a really great starting point, and I'd be keen to see us bring these forward as soon as possible through our governance framework to get them up at a council meeting and get started. Because I think this is going to give us the necessary protection and framework within which we can make sure that pre-lodgement meetings are happening appropriately, and that our briefing sessions are also conducted in the right manner, I suppose. Yeah, in accordance with the regulations. So, but having said that, I think we'll go now to the recommendation, and that is here that the council note the report for information, and that the draft pre-lodgement development application meetings policy be submitted to a future Liveability, Governance and Finance Standing Committee meeting after consultation through the Corporate Governance Framework, and the draft Planning and Development Council briefing sessions policy be submitted to a future Liveability, Governance and Finance Standing Committee meeting after consultation through the Corporate Governance Framework. Do we have a mover? Mover for that? Councillor Potter. Seconder? Councillor Henson, thank you. Speakers, Councillor Potter, first opportunity. No, you're right. Councillor Duff, you had your light on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. No, I'm absolutely opposed to the councillors not being involved in the pre-lodgement meetings, because, and I think we're setting us up for an absolute nightmare, because what happens is that the local councillor, as soon as someone wants to do something, they go to their local councillor, and then you're saying, so then the suggestion is that they have a pre-lodgement meeting that the local council or none of the councillors are involved in. If all the councillors were invited to that, then everybody's on the same page. But what's suggested here is if the developer is not happy with what happens at the pre-lodgement meeting, and they go and talk to their councillor, and we don't send it through in an email or something to the CEO, we are up for inappropriate conduct. Look, why wouldn't we want to get on the same page right from the beginning and have the local councillors and all the councillors involved in that very initial discussion, so that everybody's on the same page? I know that this is a draft and we can still debate it, but I'm just worried about that setting us up for that local. Straight away they're going to come back to the local council and say, they said this and they said that and we're not happy, and then we're in a pickle unless we're sending these emails back and forward. But if we could have the pre-lodgement meeting and you said the planning guys said in front of the councillors, in front of the developer, from now on you can't go back to your local councillor. This is the forum where we discuss it, and the local councillor is in breach to discuss this any further with you, or something to that effect. But to have this us and them, I'm totally opposed to it.
I think we might just get that clarified, Manager. Discussions with councillors. I think you did touch on that.
Through the Mayor. Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. Through the Mayor. Thank you, Councillor, for that question. No, to clarify that, no, there's no prohibition on councillors discussing, having meetings with developers, looking at their sites or whatever in relation to, and I did use the example of councillors going as a group to have a look at a complainant or look at the applicant. There's no prohibition on that at all. This is just getting the governance around the application, the assessment process, and ensuring that the assessment process is fair and unbiased in relation to the schemes, rules and regulations. And then we provide that in the assessment process follows and is provided to council for a decision. So there's no prohibition whatsoever for councillors having those discussions with developers. But the benefit of is that if a couple of councillors have a discussion with a developer about a development, they bring it back to the CEO so that all the other councillors can be informed about that issue. It's not a prohibition, it's just about sharing information. And that was just getting that governance around sharing that information. And so when we provide the briefing sessions, we'll provide council with all the information and any questions about a development, where it's up to, why it's been put on place. I mean, we've got a number of developers who say they've been working on an application for 6 months, but it only comes to council at a certain time, and then they go away to provide some engineering or some other details. And when that clock stops and they're providing that information, of course, we can't further assess it until it comes back. So there's no prohibition on councillors meeting with developers in a commercial in confidence atmosphere.
So just to clarify, this only addresses the pre-lodgement meetings. If a councillor is contacted by a proponent, by a developer, an applicant, you can certainly meet with them, have discussions with them, engage with them. We probably would prefer that for me, if I'm going to do that, I would be certainly inviting all the councillors to be part of that if they're available, as I do. And I actually also like to make sure that I have the CEO or the general manager with me, because this can be a space that can give rise to risk, to compliance risk and legal risk. So we do have to be careful here in relation to our role as councillors, to matters that may be taken into consideration by the Planning Environment Court if statements are made. So, there's a lot of legal stuff around this that we've got to be careful of. So, Councillor Duff, knowing that, does that address your concerns?
No, Mr. Mayor, because I can't see why. So now you've said now you're going to meet with the developer afterwards, after you've had the pre-lodgement meeting, and get the CEO and all these other people involved. Why wouldn't you do that up front at the pre-lodgement meeting and just call a spade and let everyone know what the councillor's role is, what the developer's role is, so instead of muddying the water by saying, no, we have the pre-lodgement meeting, and then later on, if some developer comes to you, then you've got to navigate through a process that you didn't even know what happened at the pre-lodgement meeting, and you're trying to, it's an us and them, and then you're trying to say, well, I have to go back to the planning guy, and then it's just, I just think it's a wrong process.
I'm going to ask, I think you've opened up a good point, so we can have it. I'm keen to hear what the other councillors are thinking on this, but before we do, I'd like us to hear from General Manager O'May as to why we would not, the reasons we wouldn't include councillors in pre-lodgement meetings.
Yeah, I think Councillor Duff just hit it on the head, and it's being upfront and defining councillors' roles, and there is no role for a councillor in a pre-lodgement meeting. There is, and the Mayor mentioned the risk. So the risk is if the councillor is involved in the pre-lodgement meeting, there is risk that meeting will be influenced, or the office will be influenced, and so rather than looking strictly at the planning scheme and the requirements of the application, so the councillor's role is to receive that information and make a decision, not be involved in preparing the reports or influence what reports come back and that. So there is risk, and you might say being over the top. We have had that situation in this exact council. We've had report, not this council, the previous councils of this term. So we have had, and right across the state. So the planning and development, given the money involved with it, is one of those areas that is highly scrutinised by the authority. So this is around protecting councillors. So there is an argument that if a councillor is involved in a pre-lodgement meeting, is there a level of bias for that councillor, for the proponent? So when it goes, say it's an impact assessable, if the council's been involved in that process, they vote for that. Have they ignored the submissions that the people have put in? So it puts the risk on the councillors that they could be seen to be biased. Does that raise a conflict of interest if you've been involved through the process? Certainly, and this is just probably more narrowing it down to those specific pre-lodgements where they are looking at things like the car parking ratios. This is what the planning scheme says. So there's no decision to be made. The guys are just giving, this is the information that's in the scheme, need to go away, and if you can't meet that, address it. So it's just really narrowing it down to that. Not the briefings, like councillors certainly need to be aware of what the development is and what the proposal. So it's just trying to probably set some fences or some things around just so we don't trip over ourselves. So that's probably my position on it.
Through the Mayor, yes. Thank you, Acting CEO. Yeah, look, and looking at the doing some research in relation to the roles and responsibilities of councillors and the dissemination of powers in relation to what councillors and it's, I've just stated there, and councillors understand, I guess, that they're responsible for the strategic vision and planning of the future of the region, and the officers are there to deliver that through the planning scheme, the rules and regulations that are there. So it just sets that boundary around those matters, and that where the CEO and the staff are solely responsible for operational matters and overseeing that the work is done in relation to those rules and regulations, and the reports come back to council with all that strategic information, so council can make considered opinions in relation to developments. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, General Manager and Manager. Manager, just on the draft policy, page 131, at the top, 3.2.2, point A, share information. I'm just wondering if it would help on this matter if we could maybe just flesh that out a bit and to say share information in relation to in relation to applications in process and pre-lodgement meetings held. That way council then knows that we've had a pre-lodgement meeting, we may not have received an application yet, but at least the council's aware that a pre-lodgement meeting has been held with a particular potential applicant. What are your thoughts around that?
Councillors, through the Mayor, look, having that information and the briefing sessions, as long as that is in commercial and confidence, because some applicants don't want to have discussions with the planning staff but don't want to share it out to general public and in so that they have a development that they want to discuss in confidence, having regard that they may have look at the planning scheme and want to know whether how it fits. So as long as that's commercial and confidence, I think through the CEO that would be appropriate.
And Mr. CEO, would this policy ensure then, the policy in relation to the planning briefings, that those are going to be kept commercially in confidence, that the information won't go outside the chamber, will not be publicly available, and everyone in the room understands that this is to be retained? Do we have those provisions in there as to the confidentiality of the information that's shared in those meetings? We need to cover ourselves there. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I think, and that's good having the debate around these things. We can make sure that we do include those protections and make sure that those briefing sessions are providing the information that councillors do need to make informed decisions. So yeah, I'll see that process as the process where councillors are kept up on the applications and that. So that's making sure that it is serving that purpose.
Yeah, thank you, General Manager. Councillor Duff, we'll stay with you and then we'll go to Councillor Erkins. Anything further on your issue?
I think I've said my piece and I'm not happy. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Erkins.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. I maybe have a different take on what a pre-lodgement meeting is all about. But as a councillor, if somebody approached me in the social, and they were interested in doing something, so I believe my role would be to get them into council, to encourage them, you want to build a whatever, let me take you in to council. I don't see a councillor's role, so I see, to my knowledge, that would be then to organise a pre-lodgement meeting for me to take them to the, to Mike, for you then to give the information that if they were going to do something in our area, this would be what the requirements would be. I wouldn't see the councillors, or my own role, as being there to interfere on what the requirements are. But as a councillor, I would like to encourage them to come. If it can't be done, it can't be done. But a lot of feedback that I have got since being on council is from people who have been unhappy with some decisions. So and I'm not saying that council were wrong, but I'm saying that this particular person that I'm talking about came to me afterwards, and it seems that he hadn't followed the procedure where if I had known about it earlier, maybe I could have brought him to council, he could have been advised earlier. And I do see a councillor's role as being someone to encourage people to come and develop in the area. As I said, not to interfere at all in the requirements that are, that are set by law, that they have to comply with that. But I do know in other situations, for example, I'm going to bore you, as a real estate agent, one of the things that I loved when we had solicitors in town was selling somebody a house, doing their contract and taking them over and introducing them to the solicitor. So then the solicitor took them through what the rules and regulations were. I had no influence or no contribution into that, but then they had faith in their council and their community to be looking after them. So that's I'd have to support what Kathy's saying. I would love to be a part of bringing people in, not contributing to what they can or can't do, but we also as councillors, we're not stupid, that could be debated, but, if somebody comes in there and says, they're going to do this flash whatever, and they come and you're telling them that they have to do this, and we can see that what they're talking about is not realistic and it's not going to go through, but we know right from the start it's not somebody coming to us after they've been to council, coming to us and saying, oh, we wanted to do this and we wanted to do that. We don't have an understanding of what's happened beforehand, and we're thinking, oh, I've got this guy here who wants to spend $10 million in our region, and the council are giving them a hard time because we were there right at the start and saw what they were saying was unrealistic. We understand the rules and we understand why they have been, told things by council. So that's just my impression on it.
Okay, other councillors, what are you thinking? Councillor Jones?
Yep, thanks, Mr Mayor. Well, Councillor Urquhart, you just highlighted the fact that when you sold real estate, you took the people across, introduced them to the solicitors, and then you let the solicitors do the work. Still stayed there. Okay, so what you're doing, you can still bring your developer into our staff, and then you let the staff do what they do with the pre-lodgement meeting. You've done your job as a councillor. I'm only speaking, this is how I operate. I bring the developer in, I hand them over to the staff and have a bit of a chat, brief chat with them and all that sort of stuff. I let the staff do the work. I then go back, and if the developer's not happy, of course he's going to come back. But then you have the opportunity right here, all those lists there in front of you. You can ask questions, you can do all that. You have team briefings and all that sort of stuff. You have the opportunity to find out. And most times when you see a disgruntled developer that comes back and circles back to your councillor, he doesn't like what he's been told in the staff meetings. Now, these staff, you've got to trust them. And they're operating on guidelines and legislation and everything else that is very hard to break. Now, when I'm dealing with a developer, I bring them into our staff, and I trust our staff. They're not going to tell us lies. They're just going to put it on. They will be found out. If they're going to try and lie to us and we get the developer back, we're going to ask questions and you will find out if they're not being honest. None of these staff here, in my view, would do that. So we need to support the staff, back them and trust them. I believe that with this new policy and the things that the Mayor has just identified, It enables a councillor to, the principal functions of the briefing sessions are, it's all there, A to F. Gives a councillor every opportunity. You can still have those conversations with your developer. You still have that opportunity. But we've got to follow, we've got a process to follow, and developers and people in general, if they don't hear what they want to hear, they will circle back and say, oh no, I've been blocked, I haven't got the information, it's all too hard, staff are making it too hard. Staff are operating under the guidelines that they have to operate. And we don't decide that. It's from above. So as far as a developer and pre-lodgement meetings and all that, I see our role as connection people. They come to us, we put them in touch, let these people do their job. We have an opportunity to circle behind and ask the questions and all that sort of stuff, and you get both sides of the story. I can't see where this wouldn't be a satisfactory policy moving forward, and it's just, it gives you every opportunity. You've got to let your staff do your job. It becomes, it's bordering on operational, and the Mayor touched on it there before. This is one area, and take it from somebody that's had a lot of experience with the OIA. They will investigate, and if they start looking at you on this, it's a little bit more serious than just general run-of-the-mill stuff. So I'm quite happy with what's been put in front here today. I will support this, and I think it is very workable, and I think it covers the council, and it also shows that there is a little bit of trust in, I trust the staff.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Potter?
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. I agree with both these two policies as well. But you did mention somewhere within the 3.2.2 in that policy something about information that they've shared in the sessions back with us again from the different, because I gather when we have our councillor sessions, they may have had, 2, 3 or 4 different types of pre-lodgement meetings with particular applicants. So, to have something in there to know who's been speaking to them and for what applications. I realise it will have to be commercial in confidence, but that would be really good to know. But I actually agree with Councillor Jones on this one. We don't want to be stepping on operational toes. That will get us into a lot more trouble than any of us have been in before. So I think that this, as it stands, is the best way to do it. And I like Councillor Jones, same as Councillor Erkins. If someone comes to me, I point them straight into the way of planning so they can start their pre-lodgement meetings. And, if there's any issues, they will come back to me. And then that's when I can sort of go back to planning or go to this, the councillors' meeting as well then, and bring it back then. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Henson, your thoughts?
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor, through you. Yes, look, some great points all round, but I certainly agree with Councillor Potter and Councillor Jones in relation to on page 131, and you touched on it, Mr Mayor, 3.22B and E, provide the staff the opportunity to advise the councillors, and E, provide an opportunity for the executive officer and staff to address any council questions and provide additional information. If we go down to 3.24, any matters raised in the planning and development briefing sessions which require a council decision will be reported and included on the agenda of the future meeting of a council for determination, which comes back to our standing committees and exactly what we're doing there. And as Councillor Potter has alluded to, and Councillor Jones, and again, our officers and our managers in the departments that we have, that is their job, not our job. And I appreciate Manager Lyle and the other staff in departments there for the wonderful of their job they've done in assisting me with inquiries over time. And as Councillor Jones, I think, alluded to, usually if someone comes back, it's because they're not happy with the decisions, but that's the law and the rulings that get made, and we're the ones at the end that decide on that in our meetings. So, yeah, I'm comfortable with this policy. Thanks, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Oh, this is an important issue. I'm going to give Councillor Erkins another opportunity to speak then. Normally wouldn't, but just quickly, Councillor Erkins, on what you've heard from your colleagues.
Yep. I just want to clarify that at no stage did I say that I didn't trust the staff to do their job. I completely trust the staff. But to me, to go back on it, when you said, if they're not happy, they'll come back to you. I just believe if you're there, if we're sitting there, and I'm not talking about contributing in any way with what the rules and regulations are, not at all. However, if I'm there and the staff are saying, well, you need to do this and you need to do that and you need to do something else for the applicant, and they come back to me next week and say, oh, you know, they said this, I was there, I know exactly. Well, if you can't do it, you know, it's too late. I don't. If somebody is there by themselves and they're given the rules, then and I don't know what they're doing or what's happening, they come back to me and then I go back to the staff and then they've got to come back to me. To me, it's just a rigmarole of things. If you're there, and I mean, there would be heaps. I don't know how many times council would really be involved. It would only be if someone probably has come to you first and you've organised the meeting. But I just don't see, I see that as the work being done again. So it's not that I understand what you're saying, and as I said, there's in no way that I want to give any impression that I don't trust the staff to do their job. However, I just think sometimes there are people, and again, people who have come to me complaining about council, and when I ask what happened, you know, the people that are complaining are completely in the wrong, but I've wasted time, staff have wasted time getting the information to give to me, and in some cases, the advice that they have given to me is, you know, don't become involved because it's this and it's that. If I was there right at the start, you know, as I said, I'm getting the same information that the prospective developer or prospective applicant is getting. I'm not at any stage suggesting that I would contribute to the what's allowed to happen or anything, but it's just that I believe it would shortcut a lot of complaints that come to us that we don't know anything about. I'm sure everybody, I mean, I've had them, so you people have been here longer, you must have had people come to you complaining about issues with council, and you know, you check it out and you find that, you know, like they're just whingers or.
Councillor, I might point of order. I might just inject there. I think you made your point. I think so. I've heard enough. If we could, thank you. Made your point clearly. So thank you. Look. Just a couple of things here. I just want to conclude with this. This conversation is taking me to what happens over in my business in the private sector, where an accountant is not legally able to give what we term as financial advice unless you are a licensed financial advisor. And bear with me here. I want to just get you to understand what happens. And so that means that if you're not a licensed financial advisor and you're an accountant and you have a client that wants financial advice about investing in shares or super or something like that, you can have a financial advisor come in and meet with your client, but you can't sit in the room, because if you sit in the room, you can be seen to influence the advice. So, for example, if the client looks to you and sees you going, that's a good idea, they could take that as you confirming the advice. If they look to you and say, you do this, they might take that as you saying the advice isn't good. So it's more than just what one says. It can be expressed in body language. If we then apply that to what happens in local government with conflict of interest, Councillor Erkins, and I hope you're listening to me, with conflict of interest, and that is that, well, I'm speaking, and that is that's why we leave the room. We don't just sit in the corner and not say anything. We leave the room. And why is that? It's because our mannerisms, our body language could influence our colleagues, could influence that discussion that's happening. So at law, it is recognised that it's not just about what you say, it's about the other actions that you can convey to the other people in the room. And that's where one could get caught out with this. And let's remember, there are mayors sitting in prisons right now who have influenced development applications. Okay, now I'm not saying that's what's going to happen here, but this is a highly legalistic, this is heavily scrutinised from an integrity perspective. It is heavily scrutinised from an appeals planning environment court perspective. We're going to be really careful here, councillors. And the other thing is that, I'm hearing what you're saying, but my view is that we should trial this, see how it goes. We have got the planning briefing sessions. We've never had them before. We'll be getting a lot of information on that. And I'd be proposing that at 3.2.2a, we say share information on planning applications assessed, in progress, and any pre-lodgement meetings held. That way, you know that there's been a pre-lodgement meeting with the developer in your division, and if you want to ask questions of that staff member, you can get that information through that proper forum. And the other thing I'd like to propose is at 3.2.5, where we talk about it's not open to the public, we also go on to say, Manager Mike, that all information is to remain strictly confidential as commercial in confidence. So that is clearly enshrined in policy. And I think with those couple of subtle changes, we can put this through our governance system, get more feedback, but I think this is on the right track in terms of its intent to protect council and councillors. But Councillor Duff, happy for you to have a few more words on that, and then we'll look to get this one wrapped up. And then we'll come back to Councillor Henson, sorry. Yeah, Councillor Duff.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. All I was trying to do is to actually I absolutely 100% acknowledge what Councillor Erkins has said about sitting in there and actually listening to what can and can't be done, and absolutely not influencing in any way, shape or form. The risk that I find where you're going to get into all sorts of trouble is the other process where we're not involved with this, but then the developer comes back to us, and like they do time and time again, not happy, and then what's our body language then, and what are we going to say to them? As far as the staff and all of that goes, before we even then send it through as an email to how we responded to that. That's the kind of stuff where I think the water's muddied and where we are likely to have inappropriate conduct or whatever, because we're sort of second guessing what happened in that meeting. We're trying to keep they're our ratepayers, so we're sort of a bit concerned. That's where I'm concerned, where all of us are at risk. Whereas if we did it up front and we said, we're just going to understand what the process is, the developer's there, he sees us, that we're in there, it's explained to him what our role is, what the role going forward is. We don't have that risk of them coming back and then us having to email through what we said or what we did, or I just think I'm trying to protect us, because I think this is a headache waiting to happen, or it's already a headache.
I've got to catch the hedge, but the other thing I want to make, just in terms of the solicitor relationship too, we're not there as advisors, okay? Solicitors are advisors to the client. The solicitors don't ultimately have a regulatory responsibility. We have a regulatory responsibility. We're actually the regulators here, not the advisors. It's a very different relationship between what a solicitor does with a client and what our planning manager does, okay? So as the regulators, we've got to be really careful here that we remember that's our role. I just want to make that point clear. Councillor Henson.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. And you articulated that very well in your previous comments, I might say, because that's exactly what I've experienced myself in conversations. But if I just turn your attention to page 133, 3.8, and Councillor Potter alluded to it there just a few minutes ago, that it states councillors, and this is where we need to be extremely cautious, not cautious, we don't go there, it's ground you don't go on. Councillors are unable to attend pre-lodgement development applications meetings due to their operational nature, which 3.82 goes on to state that it must not become involved in operational matters relating to the application. So if developers come back to us unhappy, my response would be, well, perhaps they need to go back to managers and departments and seek further clarity on the matter. That's not for us to enter into. So thank you, Mr. Mayor, for your comments there before, and I'm comfortable with where this document sits. Thank you.
And I guess just extending what Councillor Hitchens is saying there is that councillors then have the opportunity to raise those questions that the developer has put to you at those planning briefing sessions, and that's the appropriate forum to raise the questions and have those discussions with the planning staff. Yeah. Anyway, look, Councillor Potter.
Just the right reply when ready.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, you've got the right of reply, haven't you, Councillor Potter? I'm going to ask if we could put the words in brackets as amended after the word policy in both items. Oh, sorry. No, sorry, Kimberly. Only in the second item as amended. I just wanted to make some proposed amendments to the second policy on the planning briefing sessions. And I just want to mention, Mike, if this could be, maybe you could note that 3.2.2A, I'd like to put to council there that we share information on planning applications assessed, comma, in process, and pre-lodgement meetings held. And then at 3.2.5, we add a sentence, so after the word public full stop, we add another sentence that says, all information is to remain strictly confidential as commercial in confidence. I might be labouring the point, but I just want to make sure that that's in writing to cover ourselves. And I think with that change to 3.2.2A, councillors then know that they're going to get all that information at the planning briefing session. You're going to get to know what pre-lodgement meetings were held, and you'll be entitled to then ask questions and have the staff brief you on that. Yeah. So, Councillor Potter, I just want to ask you and Councillor Henson if you're comfortable with just putting that amendment in there at the second policy. We've got a thumbs up from Councillor Henson.
Yes, Mr.
You're
Mayor.
comfortable. Okay, we're going to go to Councillor Potter for right of reply, and then we'll go to the vote.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of things. Like, I think we do need to give this a chance. We've not had anything like this before. It's going to give us more information than what we're getting now, and I do believe this will cover a gap that we feel is actually missing for us as councillors with regards to the planning section. So, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. And if I could just ask General Manager Jarvis, as the General Manager in charge of corporate governance, if we could have this brought back as soon as possible within the workload that you have got, so that we can get this in place. Because we're going to start these in November, these planning briefings, and I'd like to think we can get this framework supporting that as soon as possible so that we're not tripping over ourselves without a policy. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you. But I think we're pretty close. I think my view is we're pretty close to getting this right anyway. So, yeah, okay. So let's go to the vote. Those in favour? Councillor Erkins, Jones, Potter, Henson and Otto. Those against? Councillor Duff. Okay, the motion's been carried 5 votes to 1. Thank you all. A good discussion. 8.4, the LGAQ's action plan for housing at 135. Thank you, General Manager.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. This is just provided for council's information. As you're aware, the LGAQ is peak lobbying body for council. So, yeah, I have just attached there, and this was a request from the Mayor, I have attached their housing advocacy plan and just a summary of the 6 points. I imagine this will be a fair topic at the conference next week, but yeah, it's just for councillors' information.
Yeah, thanks, General Manager. And just a bit of background here, Council. I think we're all aware that the LGAQ's been advocating on this. I know councillors that went to the ALGA and to previous LGAQ conferences have probably got a lot of information around this. So the state government are holding a forum on the 20th of October, which is Thursday week in Brisbane, and councillors have asked, have nominated that one of us attend, that I attend as our mayor to represent Wide Bay. So that's now been accepted by the other mayors. So I'm going to be down there attending, representing Wide Bay, and we'll certainly be putting forward anything that the other councils and this council would like to see put forward in support of the LGAQ. So if I can just ask if councillors do have anything you'd like to put forward, could you please channel those through General Manager O'May, because the staff are working on putting together a report to go to that forum. Yeah, thanks everybody. Okay, so recommendation that the report be received for information. Do we have a mover? Councillor Potter. Seconder, Councillor Henson. Thank you. Any speakers? No? We'll be able to report back more after next week's forum. We'll go to the vote. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you all. Thank you, General Manager. 9.1, I'd now like to welcome Councillor Henson to provide his natural resource management, compliance and environmental health portfolio report at page 142. Welcome, Councillor Henson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you and my fellow councillors. A pleasure, this report. Weed management efforts to increase the awareness of South Burnett communities towards the identification, reporting and response to suspected fireweed sites is paying dividends, and out of the 30 samples handed in by the public over the September period 21 were identified as native, whilst 9 samples have been sent to the Queensland Herbarium for official identification. Landowners reporting suspected fireweed also led to a further 25 targeted property inspections being undertaken. And potential new fireweed sites near Maidenwell and Kingaroy were detected through public reports stemming from Council's awareness campaign, and both of these sites are awaiting official identification from the Herbarium. As part of Council's agreed response plan, the first collaborative treatment of Parthenium weed in higher elevated areas of Cherbourg Aboriginal Shire Council began at the end of September. And infested areas along the creek flats are still slow to germinate and will require warmer conditions to ensure more seedling regrowth occurs before control activities are initiated. Fluoropropanate, the active ingredient in herbicides used for the control of giant rat-tail grass and African lovegrass, is still unavailable to herbicide manufacturers. Land managers are now faced with the possibility that this essential ingredient may never be available, thus limited the options available to control these key weed species. That's happening, might I just add, across the board with many chemicals, and the delivery dates on them have been extended out, and some may not even be as it's stated in that paragraph, but even not just for African lovegrass, but for some other weed species as well. In the feral animal management, the September Regional Coordinated Baiting Campaign has now been completed with 77 landowners participating throughout the South Burnett. A total of 2,209 kilograms of meat was injected with 1080, resulting in 3,854 wild dog baits and 2,492 pig baits distributed over 52,150 acres and 205 different land parcels. Not only does a coordinated program provide a greater degree of control across a more extensive area for both pigs and wild dogs, there are additional positive environment benefits achieved through the control of feral cats and foxes that wreak havoc on our unique native wildlife. And as I've stated before, Mr. Mayor, through you, that this program is seriously well managed and maintained, where we have some commentary in communities that state that it's not, but when done through the council, it is all on a register. And those figures there, I might add, when you read that, that's how we get those figures, because it is controlled. And when you read that, to 3,854 wild dog baits and 2,492 pig baits are distributed, that's exactly how we get those figures. So again, perhaps, Mr. Mayor, through our media outlet, we might portray that in a future release, that this program to date has been seriously successful in the implementation of it, and I would trust that over the next month or two we'll have some fairly exciting news in this space. As I get to the end of my report, I will just mention something that's exciting is going to happen in December. Landowners are very appreciative of the council's support to provide free meat for baits, and many participants also hearing the promotion of the campaign on radio. The strategy to increase participation through the provision of free meat and promoting awareness of the campaign through the print, radio and roadside signage forms part of Council's adopted emergency response plan for the sustained suppression of regional feral pig populations. And I'm sure all my fellow colleagues noticed many of the signs out on posts, guideposts and signboards across the Burnett. It's been a very well implemented session. And magpie attacks have been on the increase, with the bulk of reports coming from the township of Wandai, followed by Kingaroy. And swooping magpie signage has been erected at reported locations, with a master list created to determine key sites that would warrant the engagement of a licensed bird relocator. The high demand for professional bird relocators in coastal and major provincial population areas has meant the availability of these specialised contractors are non-existent or in very short supply. Investigations to source a contractor to service the South Burnett priority sites continues. And in fire management, ongoing wet weather is hampering the effects of the rural fire brigades to undertake the agreed prescribed reduction burns on council reserves, and to date only 3 out of the 17 specified reserves listed have received a prescribed burn. May I just add on that, being a fire warden myself, and the communications we've received through rural fires, it stated and asked us to be very diligent in how and when we issued permits out, because even though it was probably some very good conditions to control burn, in the event of a fire getting out of the prescribed area, our teams had many difficulties in getting their machinery bogged because it was that wet. So they asked us to again revise just exactly how and why and where and the time frame that we allocated permits. Environmental health compliance, food licence renewals are nearing completion and notices for outstanding licences for the 17 outstanding licences were issued from the 1st of October 22. Licences not required or not renewed will be assessed and cancelled from the 1st of November 2022. The annual routine inspection program is nearing completion, with the last inspections aiming to be completed by the end of early October. And this year it has been noted that there has been an increase of non-compliance matters and an increase in improved notices being issued and additional re-inspections, noting that when a business requires 3 or more re-inspections, this results in additional inspection fees to the business. And in other matters, EHOs are assisting the LDMG in the evacuation centre coordination preparation for the upcoming wet season. If we've got an upcoming wet season ahead of us, it's going to get wet, considering what we've just been through in the last 10 months. This requires an officer to be offline to assist in this space, resulting in non-urgent matters being put on hold, including customer requests. And with reduced capacity and skills in other areas of environment and planning areas, EH assists with regulatory and other urgent matters on a regular basis, which also delays the EH items being attended to, including CRMs. In environmental health, 2 officers are under-resourced until the vacant position is filled and are attending to urgent matters. However, there is a backlog to actioning customer complaints and inquiries. Valuable feedback has been received from customers, thanking them for their customer service and the high level of assistance that is provided. An officer was provided the opportunity to present at the recent State EHA Symposium in Dalby, providing insight on the matter of burnout in a local government environment. The feedback and gratitude by the 78 attending delegates from the LGs and state departments was well received and appreciated. That looking after the people on the ground is vital to continuing to deliver essential services in communities and supporting the vital roles of local government. And following is the attached documents in our next agenda report. Just on furthering our varmint in December, we're working hard with Jim Wilmot, one of our officers in our back offices, is doing some great work with feral pig management and been talking to our neighbouring councils, and I hope that we can present something of excitement in perhaps the December, but we're working towards the 5th of December with a presentation coming to council in feral pig management and aerial, along with some seclusion fences and along those lines, which we've talked of before. Just on that, to give you an idea, Mr Mayor and fellow councillors, and to anyone listening in the public, personally, on my personal note, myself, last Friday, we engaged an aerial contractor and eliminated 80 in under an hour on a fairly small area. So they're out there, and it was a very, very successful shoot, shall I say. So with that, Mr Mayor, I'd like to request that my resource management, compliance and environmental health report be accepted.
Yes, thank you very much, Councillor Henson. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Potter, thank you. Speakers, questions? I'd probably like to invite, well, I think we'll do it the next one. We will invite Jim Wilmot up to speak on the next one. Yeah, the next item. I'm pretty sure we've got some more information coming to the next month's Standing Committee meeting about getting guns in the air to address pigs. That's an interesting stat, Councillor Henson. 80 taken out in that one shooting session. So
yeah, that's correct, Mr Mayor. I mean, that's on a small area. To beg your pardon if I've interrupted. There's always a little bit of a time delay, but sometimes I'm 10 seconds ahead of you, not 10 seconds behind. But yeah, that was over a very short period of time, and it certainly progresses just how important our varmint control is, not just in feral pigs, wild pigs, just feral animal management, and some great work being done by our staff behind the scenes. And Jim, I've had some great communication with Jim, and I think that the South Burnett being on this southeast corner, has the opportunity to lead this, being a populated area over a small area. It's completely different, of course, to being out on the Western Downs or out in the further Longreach or Winton areas out there. So we have an opportunity, and hopefully with working with the relative departments, and if we can source some funding through this, this will be an exciting avenue that council can progress with.
Yes, definitely. Okay, so we happy to go to the vote? Those in favour? Carry unanimously. Thank you all. Now, 9.2 is the NRM operational update at 1:44. Thanks for joining us, Jim. Coordinator Jim. Can we hand over to Jim to give us a quick run through, General Manager? Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. Just briefly with the NRM operational update that you see before you today, you can see that we've also kicked off another important, piece of the pie in the way we approach feral animal management across the region, and that is the official kick-off of the Alliance project. That's funding that we've received, $200,000 from the state and federal governments to look at the further establishment of wild dog trapping syndicates, feral management syndicates, not only across this region but also the whole of the Burnett and Gympie regions as well. So we had our first steering committee meeting at the end of last month, and it was very successful with a high degree of commitment from project partners, from Gympie, the North Burnett Regional Council, and also, most importantly, from those trapping syndicates that are already in place in the South Burnett region, so the WAG syndicate and the Iron Pot syndicate. So we're looking at connectivity of this project with what we want to try and do with the management of feral pigs and our emergency response plan that Council passed by resolution a number of months ago. So we're looking at tying an investment from this project, which is establishing more landholder-led working groups, syndicates, to look at integrated approaches for the management of feral species. So that's in play with a number of other elements that Councillor Henshin has already mentioned. We did include, if you look further down, there's more detailed information on the wild dog coordinated campaign that we recently ran in September. Now, the good thing about this campaign, 52,000 hectares were under coordinated management throughout the region, and we know the more parcels that we bait at one time through that week, the better coverage we get, the better control we get of not just of wild dogs and feral pigs, but also cats and foxes that people seem to forget that are very susceptible to poisoning by 1080 as well. That's feral cats, by the way. And look, the feedback that we got of landholders that they were very happy with Council's continued support of the free meat. Like if you look at the, it was over 2 tonnes of free meat that was provided, and we got, we're hoping for even more people to come on board because we promoted it through radio. I don't know if any councils would have heard it through the radio, but we also had it on our Facebook and website, and we have road signage as well. So we want to keep up with that really intense promotional program to get as many people on board as we can, and to also, if for councillors' attention, that program that was run in September, the week after, they also had a program running in the North Burnett Regional Council. So again, remember what I came back to, the more area you bait at once or in close proximity, the timelines, the better result you're going to have. So when we're going to implement more integrated approaches to this, including aerial control through shooting out of a chopper, and also trapping of pigs, ground shooting of pigs, all comes together. And what that does, councillors and to the people listening, it reinforces our regional biosecurity system to protect those valuable farm assets and environment from the incursions of wild pigs, but also sets us up well for if we ever have an emergency animal disease. Because it's going to come from us as some of the lead players, not only through Biosecurity Queensland and the federal government. We need to be ready. So this sets us up for what is to come in the future. So the more prepared we are, the more the community is used to and gets involved in and committed to our response to these things, the less damage we're going to have. The better we're going to respond, the quicker we're going to respond. So that's setting us better, and it's about building resilience and preparedness into our regional biosecurity system. I've included in the operational report briefly, like through our emergency response plans that we agreed to do a lot more promotion. And you'll see there some of the, we have regular interviews on radio through Rural Queensland Today. And we've also, through Crow FM, using all those local radio networks, back it up with print and social media, all having the same consistent key message. And it keeps, through you, Mr Mayor, the profile of and the importance of biosecurity in the mindset of all the community and key stakeholders across the region, because it needs to. It needs not to just be a one-off program, it needs to be ongoing, and it just doesn't stop at cycling. And yeah, that's about it, Mr Mayor, that I had to report on. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Coordinator, and thank you very much for the work you've been doing with your team. Wow, over 2 tonnes of meat issued for feral pigs and wild dogs. That's an amazing outcome. Over 52,000 hectares. That's a big area of land. So thank you very much. Okay, we'll go to get this one up. The recommendation is that the NRM operational update be received information.
Excuse me.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Hitchin. Yes.
Yeah, just if I could add, and I would like to commend not just our staff, but this South Burnett Regional Council, and again, I think it needs to be noted, I'm not sure of the date, but I believe we tabled that we increased our wild dog bounty some months ago. And I bring to Council and the public's note that on the 22nd of September, it was recorded that as much as we support it and we wanted to increase our bounty, many other councils in Queensland and some have completely discarded the bounty on wild dogs. Now, I think this is a great opportunity for South Burnett and the work that Jim's doing in that, and many of our other staff and departments, of course, but I'm astounded, and as Jim touched on the biosecurity in relation to this, here we are getting on the front foot moving forward and increasing and wanting to increase our bounty and implementing what we're talking about over the last 10 minutes here, and other councils are relinquishing it. I find that astounding, but I think great work on behalf of South Burnett Regional Council, and thank my fellow colleagues for support in this space. Thanks, Mr Mayor.
Yes, thank you, Councillor. Okay, so have the recommendation there, received for information. Do we have a mover? Yep, Councillor Duff. Seconder? Yep, Councillor Henson, thank you. Further speakers? To the vote, those in favour? Carry unanimously, thank you all. 9.3 is the local law review at 147. Recommendation is that Council 23-24 operational plan include a project to review Council's local laws and an appropriate budget allocation be provided in Council's 23-24 operational budget to complete the review. We'll go to General Manager shortly, but before we do we have a mover? Get this one on. Councillor Potter, seconded Councillor Erkins, thank you. Over to you. Thanks, GM.
Yeah, through you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, so just an updated request from Council. So we've gone ahead and got some indicative costing. So we're looking around that $30,000 to complete the review. So our local laws are on that 10 years, just bordering on just past 10 years old. They were after the amalgamation, we had to adopt the new local laws. Have just put a little bit of a process, what the steps would be involved in there with the local law process. So initially you'd have that feedback from the staff on the field, where are the pain points that they have, what local laws are they using, which ones are ineffective, which ones need a bit of tweaking. We would engage, so this would be a legal service. You'd engage for the drafting of the local laws. They would review the laws for redundancy, so where there's areas that have been superseded by changes in state legislation over that last 10 years. They'd be effective. There'd be a workshop with councillors, so making sure that there is the local laws are there addressing the needs from the community. There's a process of public consultation, so they'd be put through. People can have feedback. Public interest review, that's if required, so depending on what's on the local laws, it's just a process in the making. Probably a 6-month process, so yeah, we can provide more details, but yeah, really this is just information. $30,000 is the initial estimate, and depending on how much changes and how much new drafting is required.
Yeah, thanks very much, General Manager. Just a couple of things. One there, I just want to make a couple of observations here. This hasn't been done for 10 years. We're going to potentially embrace this next year. If I could just say this up front, there are certain, I've got to be careful with my words here, people in the community who hold themselves out to be community leaders, who've made statements that this council isn't doing enough. Now, I wasn't here for the last term of council, but I reflect on what this council chamber and the management have done in this term of council. We've taken on a lot. We've rewritten a corporate plan. We've done new operational plans. We've done a regional development strategy. We've introduced advisory committees. We've reviewed almost all our policies. We have put in place community engagement days. We're now having briefing sessions for planning. We've put in place pre-lodgement meetings. We're now going to do a local law review that hasn't been done in 10 years. There's a lot going on in this council, and for those who may be listening, if you doubt the amount of work that's being done, feel free to come and listen to a meeting, because there's a lot on our agenda. And I get a bit disappointed when I hear people who hold themselves out to speak on behalf of the community saying that this council is sitting on its hands, because there's absolutely no way that's happening. This is a very busy place, and has been for the last 2 years, and this is going to be another big project that we're going to embark on that no council has done before in 10 years. So thank you very much, General Manager, and thanks for all the work that councillors and staff are doing, because we are doing a lot of work and a lot of reforms to council. Okay, well, that's my soapbox. The only question I've got is, are we able to do something in the short term? And I know we've got to be careful not to do things independently, but is there any way this financial year, and maybe not, we could do something about the dogs in units, particularly for elderly people, where we like to have, I'd like to see us move or consider having a local law on that change, Peter, so that we could perhaps consider having one dog per unit, where we have a number of units on one block. Because at the moment, if you've got 6 units on a block and only 2 people can have a dog, 1 each, the other 4 don't get to have a dog. I know we've been talking about this. Is there any way we could do that as a separate project, or would you suggest that it would be just too disjointed? Happy to have this come back later on, but I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think you review them. You do as one process. So I think if there's individual circumstances, I think we just look at them individually if those circumstances arise in the interim.
Thanks, General Manager. Other councillors? I've had my turn. Your thoughts? No? Everyone's comfortable? Okay, we'll go to the vote. Those in favour? Carry unanimously. Thank you all. Thanks, GM, for the report. Okay, 10.1, I'd now like to welcome Councillor Duff to provide her portfolio report at 1:49. Thanks, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Rural resilience and disaster recovery. Over the last month, Council's Disaster Resilience Officer has been actively meeting with local agencies, primary producer groups, Red Cross, along with having regular catch-ups with the Queensland Reconstruction Authority and National Emergency Management Agency. From the 20th to the 22nd of September, Council's Local Recovery Coordinator and Disaster Resilience Officer attended the Asia Pacific Ministerial Conference on Disaster Risk Reduction in Brisbane. This event was hosted by Australian Government, was well attended. A wealth of knowledge was provided by many countries along with QR and NEMA, also providing insight into hopefully a future of disaster preparedness and working towards a nation becoming more resilient. Council officers were acknowledged by QR and NEMA for their attendance, gaining a wealth of networking opportunities and a better understanding of disaster resilience. Results from the Shaping Our Region to Become More Resilient survey are flooding in, and look forward to seeing the end results as to what our community needs are. Parks and Gardens, total of 14 Parks and Garden staff visited Toowoomba Carnival of Flowers and had the opportunity to view the gardens in Queen's Park, Queensland TAFE native plant display, and to speak firsthand with the Toowoomba Regional Council Parks crews. This was a great opportunity for our staff to learn about the preparation of garden beds on a large scale, processes implemented to have the flowers blooming perfectly for the carnival, planting techniques, management of flowers and visitors in a highly used park. After the recent storms that passed through the Nango, further clean-up has commenced in Pioneer Park. This will include the removal of fallen trees. Perennial gardens in Wando and Mergen have received planting, maintenance, pruning, mulching and replacement plantings where required. Spraying of weeds has been completed in the CBD areas of all towns. This includes spraying of the curbside only in the CBD's car parks and traffic islands. Once the summer mowing program commences, a contractor will be engaged to undertake follow-up spraying of weeds. 2 park staff have signed up to commence horticultural certificates as part of their career development with Council. Council recognise the importance of building skills and knowledge in the parks team, as they are the biggest horticulture team of specialists in the South Burnett region. Property and Facility Management Council engaged pool contractors to repair the fiberglass in the Learn to Swim pool in Kingaroy. The crack in the fiberglass was causing the pool to leak and was structurally unsafe for pool users. The repairs were completed in time for the pool to reopen on the 19th of September. Playscape creations are progressing on the Wando pool splash play area. The screw piers for the splash play slab have been installed. Deep pipe work and tank excavation completed, ready for in-ground plumbing and tank installation. The project is progressing as per work plan, and CCTV installations have been completed in the Mergen customer service and library area to assist with improving the safety of staff and visitors. So I'd like to move my report. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Potter, thank you. Can I just jump in and say, the Parks and Gardens staff, you talked there about being off to Toowoomba Carnival Flowers. Congratulations to the management for taking our staff over there. What a great learning experience to see that large-scale planting program. I'm sure they would have learned a lot. And I think we're already seeing some results here already, because I don't know about anyone else, but I drive around the region and see the work that they've done in the spring period on the planting of gardens in every town. I think every town is looking the best I've seen it in a long time. The rain's helped, but a lot of work went in from our staff, and I think they're doing a great job on our parks and gardens right now under difficult circumstances. So could you please pass that on to through Leanne, you and Lucas and the team? We're getting a lot of feedback from the community and from tourists. Wow, how great the townships of the South Burnett look, and there's more to do. And like our road staff, they're all under the pump. So thanks very much. Councillors, anything further to add on this one? No? Happy to go to the vote. Those in favour? Carry unanimously. Thank you all. 10.2, Facilities and Parks update at 1:51. It's there to be received information. Do we have a mover? Thanks, Councillor Potter. Second, Councillor Erkins. Manager Leanne, councillors, anything you want to comment on? No? We'll go to the vote. Those in favour? Carry unanimously. Thank you all. 10.3, the Botanical Garden Advisory Group at 161. We do have a recommendation there, and thanks to the staff for progressing this one through to the committee, and it is that the committee recommend to Council appointment of 5 individual members to the South Burnett Regional Council Botanical Advisory Committee. Off the screen. Take it off the screen. Yep. 6 members. We've got 6 members now. Thanks, Kimberly. Ray Robinson, Graham Mitchell, Angela Griffiths, Adrian Maybon, Penny Hegarty and Graham Helmhold. Do we have a mover? Councillor Duff. A seconder? Councillor Jones. Thank you. Okay. Any speakers? Councillor Duff.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This has been a long time coming, and I know that there's some keen people on this committee. And the number one on that, Ray Robinson, he has a store at some of the markets, and he suggested even having a tree planting program where on whenever someone's has a birthday, that they plant a tree in our region. So he was excited about putting that to the committee, and maybe council, I don't know whether council would provide the tree or whatever, but there's lots of enthusiastic people on this committee, and I'm really keen to see it finally come to the table with a group of people that I know will be passionate, and just excited to see what they might come up with as a way forward with our region. Particularly, I'd like to see more avenues of trees coming into our towns. I think we could have some spectacular approaches to our towns if we just worked on just that. If that was the first port of call, I think we could make a huge difference to the just to the livability and the appearance of our towns just with avenues of trees. Thank you.
Thanks, councillor. Okay, yep, what a great opportunity to bring together staff, some of our great staff. We're going to have our coordinator on there with our managers, and we're going to have our supervisors, our horticultural supervisors on there. Staff come in, meet with community experts, staff experts. We're going to see some great stuff come out of this, I really feel, in terms of the development of the landscape across the South Burnett Regional Council land areas. So it's well done, team, on bringing this together. Any further comments? No, we'll go to the vote. Yep, Manager Leanne, thank you.
I just wanted to confirm that Graham had actually made us, or Society for Growing Australian Plants had made a submission. You'll see that in the attachment as a whole group. When we contacted the group, the terms of reference really talks about members, so an individual. So when we spoke to Society for Growing Australian Plants, they were happy to nominate Graham in that role rather than a group nomination. So I just wanted to confirm that. That has been added now, and that's why you have 6 nominations in the resolution.
Thank you, Manager. Shall we go to the vote? Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you all. Okay, 10.4, Proston Railway Park sculptures at 166. Okay, Councillor Duff.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I've spoken to the manager, and I've come up with a motion that I think will tick all the boxes for the Proston community. So that the weaner cattle are installed on a concrete slab. That's point number 1. Yep. Yeah, just edit what's there. And the Christmas tree footings to remain in Railway Park, Proston, in the current location.
Just hold fire there, Councillor. We'll get these one at a time. So the weaner cattle are installed on a concrete slab. Is that what it's to say?
That's it, yes.
Okay. Is that different to a podium, is it? Anyway, slab. Okay. Yep, sorry. Number 2 for Kimberley. Thank you.
The Christmas tree footings to remain in Railway Park, Proston, in the current location. And the 3rd dot point to be deleted. And that's it.
Okay. Right. So that's the motion. Do we have a seconder? Yep. Okay, Councillor. We'll give Councillor Erkins a run. Everyone's keen to get behind the weaners, which is great. Give Councillor Erkins a run. Okay, Manager. Thank you. And then we'll go to councillors.
Just want to confirm, councillors, that we were working towards the original plan that was adopted by council when we initially prepared this report. However, with consultation and discussion with Councillor Duff, we certainly suggest that for the remaining $9,000 that you have within that Works for Queensland project, it could be that that $9,000 goes towards a new slab, and that slab we would be able to anchor the weaners to that slab, and then the slab would also hold the footings for the current Christmas tree, so there's no relocation of the Christmas tree. So what would happen is the weaners would be stored away for a period of time while you have your Christmas tree up and on display, and then when the Christmas tree is packed away, then you would have the weaners put back on that location. So a dual purpose, that's what we were thinking, and it would be able to do that within that $9,000.
Thanks, Manager. Councillors?
Yeah,
Councillor Jones?
So by not moving the Christmas tree, can we move, like, instead of having to take away the weaners and move them, is there not an option to situate that slab so that, and incorporate the footings in it so that the weaners can stay out the whole time, rather than having to take them away or not? Is that an option? Just a question on notice, and happy to. But I just think that if we're going to put them out and we're going to situate them there, I think it'd be good to have them there for Christmas. I understand what you're saying, you can utilise but yeah, if you could move that slab around a bit and have it so that the weaners were there underneath the Christmas tree, whatever.
Yep, happy to take that on board. What we were trying to do, I mean, it's great to have a plan and stick to the plan, and then we made modifications to help fitted in. I mean, you've got an existing Telstra pit there, so we would just need to work in to see whether or not we could fit the weaners in between the Telstra pit and the existing Christmas tree footings. And if the Christmas tree is up, then yeah, obviously we don't want them touching the weaners. So happy to work through and have a concrete slab within the vicinity of that area that accommodates the weaners, and they're permanently there 24/7. And then the Christmas tree, when it goes in place, just remember that the Christmas tree would hide the weaners if you were actually driving past. So this is up against the hall. Happy to work through and try to resolve it.
Changes things, doesn't it? Yeah. So happy with that, Councillor Jones? Yeah. Okay. Yep. Sounds good. Okay. Councillor Duff, to wrap up.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, I know that in Highsville that they're talking about having the Christmas tree, and then when the Christmas tree goes, put something else there, because there's going to be that space. And so I haven't discussed this with the community about shifting the Christmas tree and then putting the weaners, but on my discussions with Linda Ray this morning, they did definitely, the community do not want artificial grass. They just think it wouldn't look complement the actual look of the wooden look of the weaners, and they just don't want the artificial grass, which was in that plan that's been documented here. And I also have been told that the trough has already been made by, I think it was the men's shed, so the weaners would go there with the trough, and then that would be all year round apart from just at Christmas time, and just shift the tree. So I think the community will be happy with that, but happy to go back with what Councillor Jones has suggested and maybe make the slab a bit bigger and see if you can accommodate them. But I think it's going to be challenging because of that Telstra pit. Yeah.
Yeah, Councillor Jones.
Yeah, so they just want a bare concrete slab just with the weaners sitting on it. They don't want anything on top of the concrete. So they just want natural concrete. Is that what you're saying?
Well, they definitely don't want artificial grass, whether you could colour the concrete or make it a bit, I don't know. It's a hard one.
Thought it would have made for happier weaners, but anyway, if that's what the committee wants. Yep.
Well, they like that rustic sort of look, and with the old tin, they've got a tin trough, and I don't think that it's not really Proston to have green grass all the time. That's a bit unique.
We're in a period of climate change now, Councillor. Okay. They don't indeed. I would have thought if that's the case, you'd have more crossbred cattle. But anyway, Brahman cattle do very well on that dry country. But okay, let's not go there. All right, any further speakers? No, we're going to wrap this up. Let's go to the vote. Okay, we got everyone. Councillor Henson, you okay with that? Yep. We got him? No? Yep. We're connected. Okay, those. I think we'll take that as unanimous. Yeah. Okay, let's keep going. We're going to push through. We can get to lunch at 1 o'clock. Tipperary flat design 170. Thank you, manager.
Yeah, I'll take this one. Through Mr. Mayor. Yeah, so the guys have done a design up, and unfortunately the overlay of the roads don't line up with the Google Earth map behind it. So yeah, essentially the concept is it really needs to be all shifted north by 10 yards or probably a little bit further. But the idea is that or a couple of concepts, I suppose, restricting access. So the green down the bottom is like put a berm through there, so you're restricting access off the highway. So you'll only have the two entrances, one off the highway and then the one off Brown Street. Gravelling all of the over the existing roads. So yeah, the map and the pictures don't really line up, but that's the concept, is to utilise existing tracks. Build out certain caravan parking areas along the way. Have bollarding. The little red things are logs, so we'd be looking at bollarding. And also, you're restricting access to a lot of the grassed areas. And then just probably initially just shaping it back so it just drains back to the creek. So we note that this area does go under underwater in the flooding, so it'll just basically water and wash back. And yeah, just sort of, I think the other note we had, retaining that bushland camping feel. So yeah, it's really draft concept. They haven't done survey, so it doesn't actually show exactly where those tracks would go. But yeah, it's really just trying to probably have some dedicated caravan parking areas so people aren't parking everywhere. I think even looking at the picture, you'll have them parking up all over the place. So it is trying to restrict people back into designated bays. And those bays are quite, like they're 15 metres long by 5 metres, where you'd have, so you could have your caravan, have your car, and have the awning out in that area. So yeah, it's probably just open for feedback. So because this is just a draft, so this will need to go back and take back through the community.
Thanks, General Manager. We have the recommendation that the draft design be received and council seek community feedback prior to finalisation of the design. Do we have a mover? No, we don't. Yes, we do. Councillor Potter, second Councillor Henson. Councillor Potter, did you want to speak, or we're going to go straight to Councillor Erkins? Yeah, Councillor Erkins, you've had your light on.
Yeah.
Let's hear your thoughts.
I'm a little concerned about a couple of things. One of them is the proposed access. If you move that back, that access is sort of pretty close to Brown Street, where they have that Brown Street crossing. So, I don't know whether that's a suitable access area. Also, I'm a little concerned making them specific caravan sites. That cuts down. There's normally a lot more caravans stop in there than the number of sites there. So I really think we need to be a little more, probably not park that way. You can park them a lot different way. I wouldn't mind actually meeting with somebody down there to discuss it, because this is really, we waited 3 months for this, I think, and it's pretty... Sorry. There's an area there that is where the water lies, and I noticed I went to the coloured one, the updated plan, and there doesn't seem to be any work done on that area where the water lies. So maybe if I could just meet with them down there, maybe Councillor Jones might be interested in coming down there as well, if we can, and any councillors who want to come, if we can have a meeting with the staff on site, I think it would be a lot more productive and a lot better to get across our ideas.
I'm just going to hear a response from General Manager O'May on that. It may be that we can factor that into the motion here to say that they receive, council meet with staff on site, and then the community feedback goes out. We might have to do that before we go to community. What are your thoughts, Jam? And then we'll go to Councillor Jones.
Yeah, 3 minutes. Yeah, I tend to agree. I had the initial same thing as about the number of sites I think could be problematic, and I think potentially whether we need to have, even if you split them up to some smaller sites, so you could split more smaller sites in rather than, the really big sites that do the car and the thing. So yeah, I think so it's probably just that concept. You'd certainly want to get in as many as you can. But yeah, just trying to use it as a spine road and just have the camping, off that. But yeah, I tend to agree. You probably, it does. It will be limiting back the number of vans that can be there. But yeah, the concept is really limiting the areas that they can go. But yeah, I agree. On-site meeting will be can confirm a lot of that, and when they get down and do the survey, you will. But yeah, it is a bit hard because it's not. Yeah, to me, it's really a first draft passed.
So, through you, Mr. Mayor. Peter, General Manager, one of the things that I'd like to do is, if we could sort of set a preliminary date fairly soon, because time's marching on. And, as I said, we've sort of been waiting a while for this. So if we could organise, a meeting sooner rather than later to do that. And if we can have it, with the councillors and the staff, and rather than sort that out first before we make it a community things so that we don't have too many ideas coming in at once and then we just get confusion.
So council, I've just put up a proposal there with Kimberley that the draft design be received and that design staff meet with councillors on site prior to council seeking community feedback and finalisation of the design.
Can we put a time in there?
Yeah, go ahead, yeah.
Well, I'm open to General Manager giving some times, bearing in mind that we will be away next week. So a time that suits the staff.
So prior to the end of August? You'll be back around the 20th?
Yeah, the end of October.
Oh, October?
Yeah, prior to the end of October would be great.
Prior to 31 October?
Yeah, that would be fabulous.
Are there 31 days in October? Yes, there are.
Yeah.
Prior to 31 October.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Potter and Councillor Henshin, are you okay with that? Comfortable with change? Okay. I think we can't see Councillor Henshin. Is he still there? Yep, we've got the thumbs up. That's the go-ahead. Beauty. Okay, so we'll take that now as the motion to be debated upon. Any further speakers? Okay, anything to close, Councillor Potter? We'll go to the vote. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you all. And thank you to the design team for at least getting us started with that first design done very quickly under a tight timeline. Okay, 10.6 now, Christmas tree installation update at 173. Thank you, Manager.
Councillors requested, through you, Mr Mayor, councillors requested for an update on the Christmas tree and Christmas decorations for this year. We have been busy trying to prepare the new engineering construction plans and the footing designs for these new Christmas trees. Those designs are back. You would have seen just recently that we have sent that out for quotation. We are also very nervous about the procurement of the Christmas trees, so I have actually suggested in the report a temporary Christmas tree backup plan just to get us through this year. So I'll just go through. The 3 new trees were proposed for Cumbia, Highsville and a replacement tree for Wandai. Wandai actually has an existing tree, but it's an 8-metre tree. And the Wandai Christmas tree was being moved out of the roundabout and relocated to the park in front of the Wandai Art Gallery. Now, we can use the existing tree and put a new footing in the ground, so that can be achieved by Christmas, and use the existing tree for Wandai. However, we will not be able to, I'm suggesting that we probably won't be able to get these Christmas trees made for Cumbia and Highsville in the time. As I said, we have sent it out for procurement and for quotations are due on Friday the 24th of October, but it's not giving us a lot of time for the for an engineering works or someone to actually make those frames up. If we're unable to make those frames up in time, the Cumbia Christmas tree that they used previously was actually a pencil pine that's located in the Uniting Church grounds, and we would continue to decorate that tree for this Christmas period. Highsville, they don't have a Christmas tree. However, we did purchase a 4-metre temporary tree for Kingaroy last year because we weren't sure whether or not the Christmas tree for Kingaroy was going to be ready in time. That Christmas tree is stored within our Parks and Gardens shed, and that Christmas tree could be taken to Highsville this year and used at Highsville in the interim. So we would have a 4-metre tree at Highsville for this Christmas. So that's our proposed backup plan if we're unable to procure the 3 new Christmas trees for council in time.
Thanks very much, Manager. The recommendation is that the report be received. Do we have a mover? Councillor Jones, a seconder. Councillor Henshin, thanks. We'll go to Councillor Duff shortly, but first of all, can I say thank you very much for acting so promptly. Seems you're all over it in terms of Plan A and Plan B. So thanks, Manager. We'll be toasting a drink to you come Christmas Day. Thank you. Councillor Duff.
Through you, Mr Mayor, I'm just concerned about the Mergen Christmas tree because it was absolutely had to be a new one because the Mergen Christmas tree was not actually put into a storage shed. It's completely stuffed, if you like to use that, if I can use that term. It's all been,
probably buggered would be better, Councillor.
What's a better term than stuffed?
Just it's At end of life.
It's end of life. It's reached its end. Well, it actually, what happened was, because it didn't go in storage, it's actually got all faded and it can't be used. So Mergen was actually one of the ones that we had to actually build a new tree for. Just wondering what the plan is for Mergen.
Sure, councillors. I think when I was referring to this, I was talking about the actual structures. So the structure itself could be reused for this year. However, the Christmas decorations, the greenery and the decorations, would need to be replaced in the case for Mergen, because you are correct, that Christmas tree has been stored outside for some time. So my understanding is that there is enough decorations and greenery within our stores, within our parks and gardens sheds, that we will be able to redecorate the existing structure for Mergen and have a Christmas tree for Mergen. It's one that we will have to bring back to council with a full costing, and that goes for all of these Christmas trees for council's consideration in the future. Because there's no capital works budget allocated for these trees. So once we get all of our costings back, we will certainly come back with a costing and a recommendation for council on how we're going to fund the structures. But my understanding from my staff is that there is existing decorations, and we would just decorate the structure for Mergen and use the existing tree for Mergen. It's a 8-metre tree, if I recall. So the idea was to try to get these trees down in size in the future. Our ultimate goal is to get them down to 5 metres in size, and then that way the trees can actually be in 2 parts. And when the crane truck or our truck goes to site, the crane on the truck will be able to lift the trees back in place and just put the 2 in place, and we're not actually hiring cranes and cherry pickers and all that extra equipment to install and decorate the trees. So hopefully moving forward there'll be a savings for council operationally, but we do need to get the right size trees in place to make that happen.
Yeah, thanks very much, Manager. You, Councillor Jones? Councillor Duff, sorry.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor. From my feedback, the Mergen tree it's actually got, it's no longer green in some places. It's all discoloured. It wasn't, because it wasn't stored properly, that it's just, you couldn't use it again. So I just wanted to make sure that that's been checked.
So Manager, the
Sure,
structure,
I'll follow that up and just double check.
We'll check that. Manager, report back to Councillor Duff. Yeah, thank you. We'll work on that. Great to see that the Wandai tree is going to be in its new location. Thanks, Manager. And would you mind just liaising with the president of the Wandai Art Gallery? I know Elaine has made arrangements to have a special seat made for the children to sit in and have photos with Santa under the tree. So we might just need to make sure that that's got the appropriate approval through council and design. And just a heads up there, that came out of the business meeting there on Tuesday morning. Councillors, any further speakers? No, we're all comfortable. We'll go to the vote. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you all. And thanks again, Manager Leanne. Great work in getting this happening so quickly. Okay, potential Christmas decorations and flags for the Nango. That's at 175. Do we stay with you, Manager Leanne? Thank you. Yep.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there was a request for further information in regards to the Christmas banners and the Christmas decorations, particularly in the Nango streetscape. We have worked through and prepared a bit of a budget consideration for community groups that may be looking at future funding opportunities, or council may want to look at future funding opportunities. I just wanted to raise that we certainly haven't gone ahead and obtained any sort of approval from Ergon Energy to rebuild these Christmas frames that are then located on the Ergon Energy electricity poles to hold the banners. So we haven't progressed down that far, and certainly we do not have DTMR approval yet either for those. But we just wanted to bring back, as requested, a little bit of an estimate cost for the installation of stands and banners on the electricity poles in the Nango, and my understanding it might be something that maybe some of the community groups of the Nango may have been interested in progressing. So, but I also have been advised that the community is looking at a different type of banner system to go on where the Christmas tree is located in the roundabout at the Nango. So that may be like an alternative option. So rather than go with the banners and the frames on the electricity poles, it could be that there's a new framing system made on where the Christmas tree pole is, and there's a variety of banners throughout the year, all seasons, that could be utilised on that particular pole. So, but that hasn't been costed and engineered to see what that cost would be, but we've just provided the information as requested for the banners to go on the electricity poles.
Thanks, Manager. Committee, we have the recommendation. The committee recommended to council. Point 1, as presented, 23-24 budget, work with community. Point 2, consultation and risk assessments, Ergon, DTMR and business owners. Do we have a mover for that? Councillor Erkins, a seconder. Councillor Potter, thank you. Speakers, Councillor Erkins.
Yeah, when I see the cost of doing that, it's pretty, for putting posters up, it's a lot of money. It would be fabulous. When you talked earlier about the Christmas tree and lowering the size, the one in Nanango, it's always a huge event to put them up. If they were a bit lower and could be put in a lot more efficiently, that would be good. And maybe, it's some future time, it could be altered to allow those signs to be able to go on it. Because I know that NAPTA do have plans, they've got banners or advertising boards for the 175-year celebration. So whether they can, 26,000 is a lot of money. So maybe they can organise some other way to put them up to use them. Maybe we can look at something with the tree. That would be great. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor. Okay, further speakers? No? We've got that there, so we'll go to the vote. Those in favour, carried unanimously. Thank you all. Councillor, we're going to go now on to 10.8, which is support for the CTC Safer Communities program at 177. The recommendation's fairly straightforward. As presented, it's around supporting CTC program in 22-23 and includes public swimming pool, private hire, and also public hall kitchen hire at Ringsfield House kitchen hire as presented. Do we have a mover? Councillor Potter, thank you. A seconder for this? Councillor Henson, thank you. Speakers? Councillor Potter, thank you.
I just think what CTC are doing with the Safer Communities program right across the South Burnett is just fantastic. And look, this is a great, worthwhile cause.
Yeah, this is going to be a $7,000, just over 7,000 commitment from council to support this. I think it's a worthy cause. CTC came in and presented to council, gave a great presentation. This is just so good for our young people who are currently disengaged. So I think it's something we should absolutely support. Councillor Erkins.
Through you, Mr Mayor. I do have some concerns that Ringsfield House kitchen is in there. We have a kitchen at the Cultural Centre in Nanango, and I'm aware that the kitchen in Ringsfield House has no facilities, cooking pots and stuff like that, and I just think I'm happy for the Cultural Centre, but I think we need to go into a little more with Ringsfield House before we actually have that.
All right, it was a good point. Thanks, Kat. Would there be any objection to changing that to the Cultural Centre?
Actually, if you look down at the end of the report, they've actually got the Cultural Centre Nanango up to 12 hours. So there is actually, the Cultural Centre is in there for the use of the hall and kitchen.
I'd like to see Ringsfield House taken out at this stage.
Okay.
Okay. So we take Ringsfield House, Kimberley, public hall, kitchen hire. Do we need to add anything else in there? Leave it at that, Councillor? We've already noted down the bottom we're going to be using the convention centre, the cultural centre, sorry. Yep, you comfortable with that? Okay, everyone's comfortable. Very good. So we've just changed that. Councillor Henson, you're happy with that change? Yep. Good to go. Okay. Further speakers? We'll go to the vote. Those in favour? Carry unanimously. Thank you all. Move on to 11.1. I'd like to welcome Councillor Erkins to present her portfolio report at 179. Thanks, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Now I can't find it. So the report is on the agenda, so everyone has an opportunity to read it, so I won't go through it. I'll leave you to read it, but a couple of things that I would like to make mention of is the volunteers. I think I had a conversation with somebody yesterday, and one of our region's most valuable assets is volunteers, and the tourism centres across the region are all running very well, and thank you to those volunteers. It was good to see with the sport and recreation that we had Tim Walsh in here recently telling us about the Dead Cow Gully event. I'd just like to make a mention of that. The sale yards, we had a meeting yesterday on the sale yards where we had the bad news of some damage to one of the buildings, and there was mention about the budget and discussing the budget, and we were a little worried about the white ants, but we did say that we were more worried about telling Councillor Shoemaker that it needed money spent there. So, but I also have spoken to the council about maybe becoming a little more involved in what's happening and meeting with people for my reports. That would be great. So I'd like to move that my report is accepted. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Jones, speakers? No. We'll go to the vote. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you all. 11.2, grant application under the flexible funding grants at 181. Recommendation straightforward. Committee recommends to Council that Council develop and submit an application to the Flexible Funding Grants Initiative to develop a community wellbeing event at Bajolki Peterson Dam. Do we have a mover? Councillor Duff, second Councillor Potter. GM, can you give us a quick overview and then we'll go to the vote, I think. Thank you.
Yeah, so this is an application that Manager Point and her team are putting together just for there was additional funding through the QRA with the drought. Yeah, we'd like to see a little bit of that at the moment, just a tiny bit. But yeah, just with the flooding, so there is a community package out there. So we're actually looking at trying to put a funding application in to have one of the concerts out at the dam, have a high-profile act if we can, and have a day at the dam and a community wellbeing event. So yeah, probably a 12-month lead time, but we're just trying to put the application in, so just getting council's endorsement to submit that application. It's fully funded grant application. So
Okay, thanks, Chair. Fully funded, no contribution from the council required. Won't cost us anything.
there'll be a bit of sweat and tears and that sort of thing from the staff, but yeah, I think
Yes.
it is fully funded.
Very good, thank you. Okay, are there any speakers? No, we'll go to the vote. Those in favour, carried unanimously. Thank you all. 12.1, questions on notice at 184. Recommendation is that the responses be received. Participants' responses, the questions raised be received and noted. Do we have a mover? Councillor Potter, second Councillor Duff. Any speakers? Go to the vote. Those in favour, carried unanimously. 13.1, committee. Recommendation is that Council considers the confidential report listed below in a meeting closed to the public in accordance with Section 254J of the Local Government Regulation 2012, the matter being Knight Street access under Section 254J-G. Do we have a mover? Councillor Duff, thank you. Second, Councillor Potter. Any speakers? We'll go to the vote. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you all. We'll now go into closed session. Open council. We're attending to item 13.1, whereby we have a recommendation that the received for information. Do we have a mover? Yes, Councillor Potter, second. Councillor Erkins, speakers to the vote. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you all. That now brings the meeting to a close at 1:10 p.m. Thank you all for your participation today.